for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. Please stand for the flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The clerk will call the roll.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes.
Commissioner West?
Here.
Commissioner Nettleton?
Here.
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 So we have, actually, before we do the agenda approval, I'd like to introduce Larry Taylor. Would you stand so everybody can see you? Thank you. And Larry Taylor is a parliamentarian certified, and he is going to assist the board in procedure. So if we have questions. Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Great to have Mr. Taylor's expertise in our service. Do we know yet when we'll have the training so that we'll be able to make best use of his services?
We're working on that.
Great, thank you.
Yes. And if any of the commissioners have questions of the parliamentarian, address them to the chair, and then the parliamentarian will get back to me, and we will all know. Okay, so the agenda. We are going to move, we've been asked to move, let's see, sorry. 7D, sorry, to 7A. Yes, thank you. Okay, so we need a motion for the agenda. approval.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Okay, the agenda is approved. And now we have presentations. And the first one is the Lower Nehalem Watershed Council.
Hi, my name is Zach Mallon. I'm the Lower Nehalem Watershed Council Watershed Coordinator. Now, every year we present to the organizations that have recognized the Watershed Council as a watershed council. And as the Lower Nehalem happens to cross is both in Clatsop County and in Tillamook County, we've been trading off years of coming up here or going down there. So it's your turn. The Lower Nehalem Watershed Council's mission, in case you are unfamiliar, is we're dedicated to the preservation, protection, enhancement of the Nehalem watershed through leadership, cooperation, and education. And then I decided to just kind of show the map here. This is a laser pointer. Oh, great. The line is right here between Clatsop and Tillamook. You can see that really about a third of our territory is in Clatsop County. Now, how we do that work I just mentioned is that we work with landowners, private companies, local, state, and federal agencies to restore and enhance habitat for fish and wildlife, and we do this in a variety of ways. Specifically, we do research fish passage, riparian planting, in-stream enhancement, and wetland restoration, and we do outreach through a variety of events, including a speaker series. We just completed our biennial estuary cleanup, which is a great outreach tool for us. And we specifically do not do anything through regulation or reporting to regulatory agencies. We are specifically a group that works to create cooperative solutions as opposed to regulatory solutions. But as it's my annual report, I'm going to highlight some of what we've been up to. First of all, important things are money. So as a OWEB-funded organization, at least for our base funding, a lot of our money comes from the state. It comes specifically from the lottery funds, and we have a little breakdown of where our funding comes from here, and you can see that for both our base operational funding and for a lot of our projects, about 58% of our funding is coming directly from OWEB through that program. We also get a lot of in-kind support from state agencies like the Department of Forestry and from the Department of Fish and Wildlife. We also get a fair amount of our funding through federal agencies like NOAA and NIFWF, the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, and some others. And so you can see we have a little bar of miscellaneous and a little teeny tiny bar of donations. Our funding really comes from agencies and from grant writing. We do try and keep the overhead nice and low. This year we were able to spend 77% of that funding on direct habitat enhancement or research projects, with only 23% going to admin operations. This is a little higher on the operations end than in 17, because in 2017 we had several large on the ground projects, and so because we had several multiple hundreds of $1,000s implementation projects, we were kind of having a bigger pool of money. So the operations expenses stayed about the same, just what we were doing shifted. Speaking of what we're doing, like I said, we do research, we develop new projects and do kind of the planning phases of those. We do direct restoration, and then we, are doing a lot of monitoring. And also this year we hired a new council coordinator, namely myself. And so
You hired yourself?
well, I didn't hire myself, but the collective we hired the individual me. Fun, right? And so a lot of these projects that are going on right now are things that I came into midstream and may not have all the answers and all the details about currently, because I just started in October. So 2018's activities I got about 2 months of, 3 months. Anyway, one of our first 19 activities, though, and I'm just throwing it up here because it's pretty exciting, is we just had the 11th biennial Nehalem Estuary cleanup. I've summarized some of what we found here, but the big one is that we had 170 volunteers, 27 local sponsors, which were either in-kind donations for food and materials. Tillamook County Solid Waste donated the disposal fees, whereas Recology donated all the transportation and waived the fees for the waste bins. We pulled out an entire 30-yard container of garbage, and also there were 2 refrigerators, a fluorescent light bulb. I pointed out the joint tubes and the tree protectors specifically because these are very closely related to particular industries, and in the one case they're new, and because those tubes are single use only, a lot of them are just getting thrown out and ended up as litter. And so if there was some sort of way to make that an item that people pay a deposit for so they get returned and get cycled through as opposed to just becoming litter and trash.
What are they?
So the marijuana industry has single-use tubes for selling joints in. And those are single use, and they need to be hard plastic, child safe, something else. I'm not actually super up on all the details of it, but I do know that they're turning up in the estuary, on the sides of the roads, in city parks,
I can
as
weigh in
litter.
a little bit on that, because it's part of the regulation of the industry that children be protected and kept from access. And so it makes sense that there be control. If you can write something up, I'll take it back to the Association of Oregon Counties, to the legislative committee and the governance committees, so that we can maybe get some kind of legislative, I don't know, maybe.
That sounds great, and I'd be happy to write something up, because it is something that I've noticed in my own neighborhood down in the Nehalem, and I've also seen it elsewhere throughout the state, where these tubes are just showing up as litter places.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you do something new and there's always something unexpected.
And believe me, I would never
Excuse me, are they plastic?
They're plastic. They're little hard plastic tubes, yeah.
Okay.
And then the tree protectors are a little shot at my own industry where we do a lot of restoration work and we plant a lot of trees and we have little plastic protectors to keep the trees from getting eaten by beaver or rodents or other things like that. And the fact that we're turning up tree protectors in the estuary means they're washing out of somewhere. And I'm not thrilled about that. So we're looking for other solutions on that one too. Moving on, some of the research we've been doing is we have what's called a rapid bioassessment and limiting factors analysis for coho salmon. We hired a contractor to go through the Lower Nehalem Watershed Council's territory in the Nehalem watershed to identify how juvenile coho are using that habitat and what the limits on it are. And essentially, we are filling in some of the data gaps. It's going really nicely. We have some great actionable material that I shouldn't really necessarily get into too much because we're probably limited on time. But I do have, I can't press play from here, can I? Okay, well, this is a video of coho, and I was going to demonstrate how, in this case, they're using a cold water tributary that doesn't have a whole ton of cover. And so in these cases, they're very exposed to predators. And so some of our near-term future projects are to provide some cover. You hit play down in that corner there. Yeah, that'd be fun. And so it's pretty fun because we've identified a particular stage in their life history. These are par. And when the video gets in closer, you can see the par marks, which are the vertical black bands on the fish. We've identified a particular life history stage through this research where they are not being protected from predation before they even make it to the ocean. And so we're going to try and provide some cover with a future project here, and I think that that's going to be funded through the Wild Salmon Center in NOAA, so that's pretty great.
Are you going to put trees over it? Is that what's going to happen, or?
So in this case, we haven't determined the exact solution yet. One thing that has been floated, if you will, is to actually take some cabling, attach it to several root wads, and then from there, that's going to be loud. It's going to do a thing for a minute. And the cabling is going to be attached to several root wads that will float in the high water events during the winter. And then it'll settle on top of the pools and provide woody cover during the summer months.
All I know is, Commissioner Webb, you're the liaison to the CFEDC, and several of those members from the timber companies, have been past participants and supporters of that. So if you're looking for collaboration, that might...
Yeah, oh, definitely. I appreciate that. And actually, I was going to bring up one of our collaborations with local timber later on in the presentation, too. Because we'll be getting the wood from that from either... probably the Department of Forestry, but we also have a lot of partnerships with Lewis and Clark Timberlands, Greenwood, and with Weyerhaeuser and with Stimson. And so they have provided wood for projects in the past as well. So we'll see if that, one, ends up being the solution we go with, or two, ends up being who gives us the wood.
Sure.
And it always is mostly an issue of sourcing it as close to the project as possible to keep those costs down.
Right.
Because we may be funded through lottery money, but we still try and make that stretch. Any other questions about that particular one? It's kind of a fun project. This is a partnership down in Tillamook County, right on North Fork Road, outside of the city of Nehalem itself. We're looking to replace several culverts because they're undersized and a barrier to fish passage. They also prevent the tidal influence from reaching former wetlands, which is how it's cause the wetlands to infill somewhat, as well as reduce the amount of available habitat there for the juvenile coho rearing. We're pretty heavily focused on coho as an ESA endangered species listed species and as a commercial fish. And so in this case, we're going to replace these culverts. Tillamook County Public Works is responsible for the culverts directly because it's under a county road. We're partnering to try and ease the burden on the county as well as on ourselves for the replacement. It's ongoing. We just got delivered, actually, the alternatives analysis phase a couple days ago, so this slide is already old. And we are getting the preferred alternatives moved into a design phase before the project is finished, which should be at the end of April. There have been some unexpected barriers to actually doing the replacements themselves. To do one of them, we're going to have to do a property acquisition down there. Luckily, it's for sale, so we're putting together partnerships to acquire that property through someone who can hold the title, because watershed councils cannot hold property titles. And from then, we'll be doing a probably 20-acre tidal wetland restoration project in conjunction with the culvert replacements, which will be supported again by Tillamook County and Fish and Wildlife and ourselves, and actually probably the city of Wheeler, who will be needing some mitigation work. So it's a pretty cool, pretty big project that is probably not going to happen until 2023. So you'll get to hear about it when it does. That should be one of your years.
Yay.
Yeah, right? It's going to be a good one. Speaking of partnerships, though, this is one that we're doing with Weyerhaeuser that actually is in Clatsop County. And it is a culvert replacement, large woody debris placement on Weyerhaeuser property. They come to us. I actually have a Weyerhaeuser employee on my board. And they come to us with projects where they're going to be doing a timber sale and say, hey, we're doing a sale here. It's an opportunity to do a culvert replacement and to do some large wood placement in the streams. It ends up being a win-win for everyone. We actually save a bunch of money by not having to mobilize equipment into these areas, and they get to do some good work alongside that sale, which is also great. And so in this case, it's going to be about a mile of resident cutthroat habitat, as well as doing some large woody debris and replacing a culvert with one that is more appropriately sized for cutthroat migration. Let's see here. So I think that's about the end of what I came here to present. I kind of gave you a nice couple of examples of projects that we're working on. We have other things going on. This is the nice long list of our partners from 2018, both in-kind and material donors. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to hear about what the council's been up to. Do you have any additional questions?
I would like your full name. I didn't catch that.
Oh, yeah, my full name is Zachary Mallon, M-A-L-L-O-N, and I'm the Watershed Council Coordinator.
M-A-L-L-O-N?
O-N, yep.
And you're the,
Watershed Council Coordinator?
okay.
Yep. And so my job is to be the one-person nonprofit that manages all the projects and keeps the wheels on the cart, as it were, you know?
And you all have a website?
We do. It is painfully out of date presently, but I have access to it again, so I'm going to be updating it soon. But yeah, we have a website. It is lnwc.nehalem.org, I believe. But it's easier just to email me at lnwc@nehalemtel.net.
Nahum Tel?
Nehalemtel, T-E-L. Yep,
Telephone company in Tillamook County.
yep.
Another good part of that North Fork project is that should ease the flooding that happens on that road periodically, too.
Exactly.
Do you think it'll extend down into Wheeler? Because remember downtown Wheeler had a big breakdown in that culvert, and the mayor has warned us several times that may happen again. Will this be upstream of that?
So this is going to be a different location. So it's going to be upstream of the Nehalem River from that, because it's going to be happening. The project sites are on the North Fork, Nehalem, and then just after the confluence of the main stem and the North Fork for the two along the North Fork Road. So the the Wheeler flooding happened up Jarvis Creek, which blocked and then flooded down past the post office over 101. Actually, because they're pursuing that project right now, the city is, that is where some of the support for the eventual restoration at the acquisition site that I was talking about is going to happen. So Wheeler is going to
Connected.
most likely, I can't say for certain because they haven't gone through the process yet, the engineering yet, but most likely they're not going to be able to make that creek fish passable while solving their flooding issue. And so they're going to be approaching the feds for some funding to be able to resolve the flooding issue. But they're not going to be making that a fish passable project most likely. In the occurrence they cannot make it fish passable, they will have to do wetland mitigation work somewhere else in the Nehalem Basin close by, which is a great opportunity to partner with us on that acquisition, or more specifically, the restoration of that property following acquisition of it. But it will help resolve some of the flooding issues on North Fork Road itself, because it does flood regularly and it is an emergency access. And so it needs to be open and available for emergency vehicles to get along. And so this project will eventually support that being more workable, more accessible to people.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
I had a couple questions.
Yeah.
I assume you've been part of the AOC, OWEB outreach, Tidegate outreach meetings that they've been.
I have been part of some of them, yeah.
What do you think of the direction that it's going? Do you think it's been a positive one?
So it's interesting because they've been doing some fun, let me back up even. So we actually have a muted tide regulator, Tidegate, in the Nehalem Basin, and we're doing monitoring work on it right now. And the monitoring for that is going to help determine whether or not the MTRs are an effective alternative solution for tide gates.
Is it a Leo Kuntz?
It is a Leo project, yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's the McDonald Slough Tide Gate on the Nearing property. And so that one is going to be, the monitoring on that is going to be influential in whether I personally recommend MTRs for future tide gate replacements.
Excuse me, what's an MTR?
A muted tidal regulator, so it's a form of tide gate where its opening is dependent on the water level behind the gate in conjunction with the water level outside of the gate. So as opposed to requiring a high level of water behind the gate to force a door open, there's a float. And when the water level reaches a certain height inside, the float closes the gate doors. And then when the water level is lower on the outside again, the doors open again based off of water pressure, and it runs out. But it allows the gates to be open more often, allowing for increased fish passage in theory.
We're working on a presentation, because we were down
were ya?
at the Tillamook Library together, remember? There were lots of us there.
There were lots of us there. I do remember. Yeah, that's right.
So I was there, and I followed up, and Commissioner Quila and I talked about it. So there was a great presentation there, and we're working with staff to bring that presentation here for us, because I really love the presentation. Lots of pictures, very clear. It told us just enough to really understand it. And so when are we looking at having that? I can't remember exactly. Soon? April?
Yeah.
One of the meetings in April.
Great.
So you're going to get more information, so we'll all be smarter. So maybe you want to come back and,
I mean, if you're going to have that presentation in April, I probably would like to come up and
heck yeah.
see it again.
It's good stuff.
For my part in particular, I'm very concerned about whether or not the fish are actively using that during the critical periods for their migration. So in particular, I'm looking to see that fish are actually going in there in April, specifically. April to May is when coho would be using that habitat. And then after May, they're going to be out migrating at that stage. And so it's not likely that they're going to be needing it to be open, but it's going to be wide open most of the summer. So it's going to depend a little bit on our spring flows. If we have a lot of high water in the spring, then that gate's not going to be open, the 50% that is by regulation required for it to be counting as, a fish passable tide gate.
You're making me so smart, my brain hurts. Just saying.
I've been fixated on this as an issue for a little bit because I have several more tide gates down there I want to replace because they are a major barrier to fish passage, which is a major barrier to fish rearing, which is a major barrier to fish getting to the ocean to,
Yeah.
grow, which is a major barrier to meat eating fish. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
But
yeah.
we'll all get smarter soon. It'll be fun. It's a good.
But yeah, you'll have a good
presentation.
time with that presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very
This-
much.
Thank you for all this work that goes on with the Watershed Council. It's very important for the habitat of everything that grows and is abundant in that area, and I think the fishermen
Yeah,
really appreciate it too.
I'm
And as
trying.
you said, those of us who enjoy salmon.
yeah. Oh, exactly. And we try and make sure that we're doing work that also allows our ag community to continue doing what they do as well. So
Good,
it's all trying to find those balances.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now we have a presentation regarding the household hazardous waste facility.
Good evening. This is Mike McNichol, Clatsop County Public Health Director, and I'm a little discombobulated because I had a bad hair day, so I'm just working on
I'm with you.
7 cylinders out of 8. So anyway, this is about the household hazardous waste facility status update. So just push the button here. No, there we go. Just some quick things we'll talk about because some of the commissioners have heard this before, but 2 of you have not. So I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. So actually, this project is not a new one. It's been in the process for over a decade. I took it over about 4.5 years ago. So I took it over where nothing was being done, and we had to decide whether or not we were going to do it or we're not going to do it, because if we don't do it, let's do other things. So let's either do it. So back in the day, they did several sites around the county. They looked at different sites that were eligible to do household hazardous waste, because you have to have a certain site. It has to be able to, you're going to be dropping hazardous waste off, so it has to be zoned properly. So it came down just to the one site on Williamsport Road, right across the street from the high school, that was where part of the dump was back in the day. So that was the one that was met all the siting criteria. That site was selected by the Solid Waste Advisory Group that was formed back for those 5 years leading up to that decision. Way before my day. The Board of County Commissioners in 2010 actually adopted that site as part of the Household Hazardous Waste Management Plan in 2010. So this is why we moved forward. Wrong button. Again. Oh, here we go. The site, if you're not familiar with where the Astoria High School football stadium is literally right across the street from that. If you know where the transfer station is, right below that, so that's how you can triangulate it. The site is not the easiest one either, because it requires mitigation for use. That means we have to do methane capture. We can't let the methane that's underground get out into the atmosphere. It is explosive, so on and so forth. We have to actually have pilings to make sure the thing is stable. When you pile on buildings on top of a landfill, they tend to settle and break. Similar to what they did at, for the stadium. City of Astoria provided a county site for that facility through a long-term lease agreement, and that's been, I think we include that in the packet. I'm not sure. If not, we can get that to you, but it was a great deal. I think it was free. So then we developed, and finally after we decided in 2017 that we were going to move forward, we developed a request for proposals, and we brought it to the board for them to approve, and we released it in January 2017. Through that RFP process, Haligso Construction was selected as a general contractor, and they subbed out parts that they're not special at, especially the pilings and the forming and all this and that. Those plans took a long time to develop, even after we selected Haligso, because there are different pieces of that that required permitting, special permitting from the DEQ, especially around methane mitigation and what to do about the waste. So there was tons of planning. We went through a lot of meetings, but we finally got the current plan that they're following, and the budget was selected in mid-2018. So last summer-ish, I don't have the exact date, we brought it to the board, showed them the plans, we agreed we'd move forward, and then after the board agreed to that, then we released the funds to get it going, and Haligso started moving forward. So that was in the summer of 2018. So the project plan is we're constructing a 1,600 square foot building. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but because we require 40-foot pilings to be pounded into the ground. So they're very tall. I have pictures of them. They have to be pounded down to where it meets actual solid ground. So that takes a lot of pounding, as we found out today. Requires methane mitigation. We actually have to have a cap to capture the methane and make sure that it gets moved in the appropriate place so it doesn't eke through and get in and catch on fire or other things.
Can I just hold you up for a minute on that? Because that methane mitigation, I read about it's failing in some other places. Are we more confident that we've got something that's actually going to work now and into the future? It's maintainable, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, so some of those, this is a small site, so it should be pretty easy. They're using a 30 mil cover and make sure that it has all the things covered, and they're going to put it out, and it actually we already got approval by the DEQ for it. So we do have their engineering firm, their engineers at DEQ were the ones who outlined what we had to do. So that's,
Supposed to be the experts.
I'm not a membrane specialist, so I don't know. I'm hoping that it's probably good. I don't know. So we'll find out.
Dr. McNichol, can I answer a question?
Yes.
Can I ask? You responded, that was good.
It's like who? Anyway.
So what happens to the methane? I mean, you capture it.
And then it's captured underneath where the landfill sits. They put a membrane over it. As it ekes up through the ground, it's going to come in through some tubing, and then it's going to be vented. Instead of coming up through the ground and not having control of it, we're going to control it, vent it, and release it.
And it will be released then
Right.
into the air.
Yeah, there's not much else we can do with it. I mean, we could flame it off, but that would be
Oh, that would be a good
that'd
idea.
be kind of fun.
Yeah, that'd
But we really can't do that. So
Another tourist attraction.
very much so.
Yeah.
We could sell tickets. Anyway, so also requires fire-rated equipment and building materials due to the presence of hazardous waste. So you have to have more stuff to make it safe to have these hazardous wastes on the site. And then the city of Astoria and the DEQ had a mild pile of things that they wanted, and it's very specific around what we had to have and what we had to have. And so there's back and forth between the consultants. So what we ended up with is the cool part of it is it's going to be a drive-through facility. So you'll be able to, any resident in Clatsop County for free can drive through it. They'll go into a place that has an overhang, be out of the rain. They can pull up, roll their window down. A guy will come out with a cart, greet them, and then they'll go through the stuff and pull it into a cart, and they can drive away. So it'll be pretty cool, actually. It'll be open a minimum of 8 times per year. That's a requirement through the DEQ. I'm believing we're going to have to do it more because there's a pent-up need out there. We haven't had any household hazardous waste events for at least 4 years, and we're moving on to 5. We've had a ton of phone calls. I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of people there. So, and like I said, there's no charge for residents to drop off their household hazardous waste. It's similar to the place in Tillamook. We're also going to have commercials be able to drop their stuff off. And when I saw that list from our friends of the Lower Nehalem Council, if you notice some of those things on the list, those are recyclable, and that's what this household hazardous waste facility is designed for, is to get the fluorescent tubes, the oils, the greases, the paints, the pesticides, the herbicides, batteries, all kinds of stuff. We can collect those, take them and treat them and dispose them properly. So some of that stuff is actually what this is for. I'm glad he was first. And then the small quantity generators, which is the commercials, will be able to drop off 1 or 2 times a month, but we're going to charge the commercials because that's what most household hazardous waste facilities do.
What is the SQG?
Small quantity generator, so they make small amounts of stuff, but they're more than residential. So it's not like a big, massive household, like a hazardous waste dump, like a...
So if you have a shop and you use more than a normal household.
Right, yeah. Revenue sources, tipping fees at the transfer stations, $3.50 a ton. Will go to $5 a ton to help offset costs of HHW, so I'll explain that. So for every ton of waste that's dumped at the transfer station, that amount, then we get $3.50 to do the operations of the household hazardous waste. So everyone who dumps their commercial, private, doesn't matter, we get a piece of that. And it's about, we get about $175,000 a year to operate the facility once it goes to $5 a ton. So we have that. The DEQ back in, it was a long time ago, about 2011-ish, gave the county a $77,000 one-time grant to actually offset the cost of building this thing. So we actually acquired that note long ago because we went through all the paperwork and we finally got it. We also have a brownfield redevelopment loan. We needed some more money to actually build the things through the Oregon, Business Oregon loan. And of the $360,000, $60,000 will be forgiven once we open. So it's actually a smaller loan than that amount. We actually get it's technically a grant, if you will, or a donation or whatever. And then our friends at Clatsop County Special Projects donated $260,000.
Loaned.
That'd be a
Dang
loan.
it, they're gonna loan it. So anyway, we have to pay them back too. So,
Just to be clear for the record? Okay.
just to be clear for the record. Anyway, but they're not charging interest, so that was good. The total project cost is $1.1 million with a little change at the end there. Operations budget highlights, so we actually have so how it works for other household hazardous waste other than Tillamook is that Clean Harbors has a contract through the Department of Environmental Quality as the company that can actually do this at a guaranteed rate. So we're going to tie into that contract, and Clean Harbors will do all the operations. They'll come in, do all the collection, put all the stuff in all the right bins, and then take it away. So we're going to do that, have them do it, because in order for us to do it, we'd have to hire the right people, and the training requirements to have someone do this I could have done it 20 years ago, but I can't do it anymore. So all my certifications are over. Clean Harbors, like I said, will do that. So the cost per event, early on, it'll be more because it's based on the amount that's collected. We're assuming in the beginning it'll be more, in the end it'll be less. At some point it'll even out at about $6,000 an event.
So that's one of the questions that I had when I looked at the operations plan. There has to be somebody in case there's spills, there has to be an emergency contact. That's what you're talking about.
Right.
So these folks are going to handle all of it.
Correct.
There'll be no staff there.
No, well,
County
I'm going to
staff.
go because I'm curious, but,
Okay.
but we don't have to be there. So,
Okay, that was one of my
right.
biggest questions.
Because in order to be there, you'd have to be a hazardous waste specialist, and you have to have 40-hour certification plus a bunch of other stuff. So it just costs too much, plus we'd have to hire somebody else to do it.
And then they're going to be checking, you have to go around on a regular basis to make sure everything is still where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and I think that'll be my job, is to make sure things are where they're supposed to be, because I can do that piece and make sure that the inventory and the characterizations, and all the things are put in the right place, because the operation plan says these have to be here, these kind of waste have to be here, they can't be mixed or matched. So that's the kind of work that we could actually do.
Okay, so where does all this stuff go?
To a transfer station and disposal firm, so I'm not sure exactly where their end product is. It'll depend on the waste stream too, so the paint goes to one place, if we do paint, I'm not even sure we will, but the used oil will go to one place, the used antifreeze somewhere else, batteries another place, so it depends on where the end product gets to go based on the product itself. So I can get a list of that for you, where
But
they
I mean,
currently
from
go.
what we heard about other countries not taking our recyclables, does that affect this at all?
Well, that's recyclables. This is hazardous waste. I would hope we
So
wouldn't
this would
ship
not
that
be
over.
shipped off?
No, I don't think so. I would hope not. I could ask them if they'd ship it out, but I would hope they have contracts to actually reprocess some of the stuff. Because a lot of people who take the paint now, like Paint Care, you can buy the reused paint in much cheaper base if you like gray. So, I mean, you can add color to it. So, so you can see all
I'm back with methane. We've got this big, carbon bill, cap and trade, and, carbon's a big deal, but methane's a big deal. And I'm really surprised that DEQ said, oh yeah, just release it instead of contain it and have a controlled burn.
well, that would cost a lot more. And the amounts it's not like the amounts, so basically the only thing they're concerned about is the fire hazard. They didn't care about the release, of course, because that's safer than it is coming up through the concrete, getting into the corners of the facility and causing a problem. So I guess that's DEQ.
I just don't know if it's going to stay like that. you know, I really trust.
Well, we also have methane monitoring. So if it does leak out, the alarms will go off. So we'll know there's problems if that happens. So we have to have that too.
The methane is being released from the landfill.
Right. It's coming out of the landfill anyway.
Guys, you're not producing it.
No.
It's coming up from the
We're just
land.
controlling where it's going.
Because I once worked in a building that was above a landfill, and they had big things on either side of the building
Right.
for methane release.
Yeah, it's basically just making sure that we're controlling where it's released to and doesn't go out places we don't want it to.
Do you understand now why you got that land for free?
Yeah, it's a gift. So
Gift that keeps on
it
giving.
just keeps on giving. So actually need to update that. The city of Astoria released the permit last week, so we actually started construction on Monday. The grading and filling was completing, all the financing's in place, and I was out there today, that's where I was this afternoon, watching the pilings being driven, and then they ran into a problem. But anyway, so prediction, and strictly from looking at it today, looks like May-ish, towards the end of May 2019. So here's the picture of the work shed. So there it is. That's where they do all their operations out of. There's kind of and I'm a terrible photographer. Wow, look at that. So there's a fence next to the street. And there we have the site, so you can see the excavator in the back. So they're gonna have to excavate out and make a nice space where they're gonna put it. And you can see the, across the street there where the fields are. That's another picture of the, boy, I need to work on this. So here's actually what we're talking about. The DEQ required us to protect the stormwater. This is a good example. We had to have the fencing as well as the circly thing around the stormwater, so we didn't increase the stormwater runoff from our site. It's like that. So, and if I
That'd be
have any
good
questions.
before and after pictures, right?
Yeah, well, so I'm going up there every other day. I'm going to bring back pictures for you. And actually on our website, we have a website on the environmental health page dedicated to this so people can follow along. So they actually drove, so I'll give you the piling story. They thought they could use a vibratory hammer to drive these pilings in. But these pilings are literally huge. They're 12 inches around, solid steel. But the DEQ said you had to use flat bottomed on the pilings. They can't have pointy things, or they can't be open. So they're trying to pound them down on, you know, how flat things like to go through things, right? So the vibratory hammer didn't work, so they had to bring in this pounder, this actual, you know, that sound we heard from them doing over here. That'll be over there for a while they're pounding them in. And then once those are done, then the forms can go up. So they said by the end of this week, all the pilings will be in. And I will bring the video to show we'll have the video on when they're doing it, because I'm excited. I don't know anybody else is, but I am, so.
And may I say something? I wanted to congratulate you. I understand you have recently completed your doctorate. And
Oh, yes. Thank
will
you. I
now be
appreciate it.
referred to as Dr. McNichols.
No, you can just call me Mike.
Congratulations, that's really wonderful.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Mike, and thank you.
Sure. Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
Oh, please don't.
Now we come to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 3-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. People wishing to speak during business from the public must fill out and sign a public comment sign-in card. And you will have 3 minutes, as I said. And the first one is Shira Marila? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Marilla, thank you.
Hi,
Hello.
my name is Shira Marilla. I'm the clinical outpatient director for Clatsop Behavioral Healthcare. And I think that you will likely hear from several of our staff members today that have some things to say. in support of the work that we do, and in support of our community, and in support of the agency. And what I would like to say as the clinical director is that two things. That I'm proud, mostly, to work for CBH and to live in Astoria and to provide these services that we provide. And also that I'm proud of our staff every day and the work that they do, because it's really hard work. And also that I'm excited to continue to have the opportunity to provide those services and to support our teams. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sean Hastings. And please state your address as well.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sean Hastings. My address is 82483 Maple Road, Seaside. Though they call us Seaside, we're way out in the East County out there on Highway 26. This is about some property I have in my name out there that me and my parents bought. Just found out just here in the last couple of weeks there was a problem with it. Namely, somebody had been using it for a dump site, plus my parents and me have had extra vehicles that they did not take when they moved to New Mexico parked there. There was a pickup truck, a car, a couple of four-wheel drives, a trailer, RV. Did I sit there? Anyway, what I am here today, and sorry I'm not good at public speaking, so I might be jumping around a little bit, is just to kind of inform you that we are working on a plan right now with the county to go in there and do some cleanup, and hopefully in the future may be able to pick the property back up. We do have a plan going. We do have in the works right now an agreement to hold the county harmless to be able to go in and start doing the cleanup. I don't know, that's probably just more interested if you have any questions than anything else. I don't know really what to say here. So, oh yes, and this is Andrew. He's my partner in on this, helping with the cleanup, et cetera, some of the backup on it. So it's not just me by myself, you know, trying to do this. There are several people involved here working on this project.
Yeah, if anybody's unfamiliar with it, this property.
Would you state your name,
I'm sorry,
please?
Andrew Sothey,
And your address?
1263 Northeast Hawthorne Avenue in Hillsboro, Oregon. I'm sorry. So what I was going to mention is that this property has been foreclosed in a tax foreclosure on.
Thank you.
Okay.
I would be interested, I'm the commissioner for that district, so I'd be very interested in speaking further with you through staff, so,
Okay.
Absolutely.
good. Thank you for coming.
Alejandro, I'm not going, thank you. Oh, yes, that's you.
That's
Okay.
you.
Sorry, I couldn't.
All right, Alejandro Benke, 218 Southeast James Street, Campus, Washington, 98607. All right, I'm the Vice President for Local 2746.
I'm sorry, can you speak directly into the mic? And
I'm the Vice President for Local 2746 here in Astoria, Oregon. We have about 300 members, and CBH, Class Behavioral Health, is also part of our local. They're 2746-2 and has about 65 members that we represent. So, dear Clatsop County Commissioners, the employees at Clatsop Behavioral Healthcare are committed to serving this county and the community members. CBH employees have dedicated their careers to improve the lives of not only the community members who are served by CBH, but the entire population of Clatsop County. The frontline staff of CBH do a variety of roles for the community. Employees care for our community in a variety of ways, connecting clients with jobs in the community, protecting our community members that have developmental disabilities, counseling children, families, and adults, supporting folks with drug, alcohol, and gambling addictions, providing evidence-based practices designed to provide treatment to individuals who are diagnosed with severe mental illness, and provides a temporary sanctuary for Oregon residents suffering from severe mental illnesses outside of emergency rooms in the county jail. We are asking you, the Clatsop County Commissioners, to believe that the frontline staff of CBH understand their work and that these employees should continue to serve the community. CBH employees are the trusted experts. CBH has been doing this work in our community for years. CBH employees are good at this work and have forged deep bonds with the clients. CBH employees care deeply about this work and are willing to fight to protect the clients from these sorts of radical changes in care. CBH employees have built trust with the clients, and to rip that away from them could derail all the progress that has been made. Do not harm the clients by removing CBH as the provider of these services. In addition, by awarding the contract to a different organization, you, the commissioners, have the very real potential to remove jobs in our community. CBH employees are your friends, your families, and your business patrons. Commissioners are responsible for ensuring these jobs stay here and that Clatsop County continues to grow economically. I ask you here today, along with the members that are present behind me, to live up to your responsibility to protect the employees' jobs and to protect CBH's clients. And I also have a stack of petitions signed by CBH employees and members of the community in support of this.
Thank you. Jim Holen?
Hello, I'm Jim Holen. I live in at 877 14th in Astoria. I think I'm in Pam Webb's district, I believe, if I'm reading the map correctly.
What was your name again?
Jim Holen, yeah, 877 14th on the riverside. I've got three things I want to say about Clatsop behavioral health care, and most of what our concerns are with is relationships, and that's relationships with all the 40-odd thousand residents of Clatsop County, and also relationships with all of our community partners. I'll detail a few of those, and also relationships that have developed in support for CBH of 80-some employees that provide these services to the residents of Clatsop County. Just about the residents here, you know, we serve folks. I work as a crisis worker, and I think I've had folks I've interacted with age brand new, one-day-old children that are born to a lady with severe mental illness. We're on the front lines of oftentimes of protecting children, making reports of harm of children. Much of the mental illness and substance abuse begins with some kind of trauma, some poor adverse childhood events. So certainly our main interest is making sure young people in particular get off to a good start. You'll find folks in their later years that, you know, would go back, if you look back through, most of their difficulty started with a poor start in life. Not always, but sometimes it's just a rough genetic load, you might say. So the residents, you know, do include folks that travel in. A lot of times we're spending a lot of time with folks who are transient coming into town here, sometimes coming in for vacationing. Sometimes there's a kind of dark humor with, you know, come out on vacation, go back on probation. That, you know, we try to intervene with folks when they come in, try to keep them out of the ER, try to keep them out of the jail, intervene with folks who are currently receiving services of CBH that come up upon some difficult situations and need to have kind of a safety net built around them. When I see folks as a crisis worker, I can count on all these folks behind here to follow up with them, to make contact with them, to encourage them, to motivate them, to get out and see them in their homes, meet them in the open door everywhere in the community. The next group I want to mention about, again, relationships. You've got CBH on duty. I understand that there's, you know, and I appreciate that you're looking at, you know, whether to continue the contract, to have CBH be the contractor, but I would tell you that there are hundreds and hundreds of community partners. I'll just name a few. All the police departments, county jail, court system, all of those folks we interact with on a regular basis, and the Helping Hands, the shelters, all of those folks. Again, the CBH workers themselves, the 80-some folks that are dedicating their professional lives, including all the things that I think you've already heard about from Alejandro. We do have a very strong group supporting all these 80 folks, ensuring that they are able to carry on and keep the helpers in
Excuse me,
good
Jim.
position. Yes. And
You've gone over.
okay, all right. Well,
Are you
thank you
almost
again,
done?
and thank you for holding this forum, allow me to speak up on behalf of CBH.
Thank you. Next, we have Brandy Lindstrom.
My name is Brandy Lindstrom. My address is 110 Northwest 4th Street, space F9 in Warrenton. I am a founding member of, or a founding employee of the North Coast Crisis Respite Center. I've been there since May 31st, 2016, before we even opened. So I feel obligated to share my perspective of the support that we provide and the importance of our contribution to the community. The Respite Center staff work closely with the crisis team for Clatsop Behavioral Health Care. We also work with the local law enforcement and the local hospitals. Together, we're able to provide a safe place and strive to place adults with severe mental health illness diagnoses in the least restrictive placement possible. This prevents a lot of our community members from ending up in the state hospital, and it also allows those beds to be saved for people who really need them, and it also saves taxpayer dollars. We at the Respite Center here in Clatsop County are also willing to take some of the clients that other facilities in the state of Oregon are not willing to take. So we're able to take them in and provide them with help. The current Respite Center staff also provide training for these clients to help develop coping skills to help better the symptoms of their mental health diagnosis. We worked with them on adaptive daily living skills, help them work on their hygiene, cleaning, just how to cope in the community by themselves. We help them look for jobs. We help them with medication management. We help them find housing. This provides us the ability to help them be more successful in the community after they've discharged, and maybe they won't need us anymore. We also help them provide continuity of care, setting them up with a therapist, keep them going to medication management, the Open Door staff and the ACT team, someone to follow up with them after they've left us. The Respite Center, many of us at the Respite Center have family members with mental health diagnoses. This is why we were hired, because we have that lived experience with our family members, and some of us are even successfully managing our own mental health diagnoses. This gives us the ability to empathize with our residents. It gives us the ability to be at their level and help them through our own experience, and they know that they're not alone. We're very passionate about our jobs. It's very important to us. So we just, I know I'm over, just wanted to let you know we appreciate your support of the North Coast Crisis Respite Center and would appreciate the continued support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Nebaker,
Yes,
may I stand? My leg is bothering me.
of course. Yes. Next, we have Debbie Lake.
Hi, my name is Debbie Lake, and my address is 41917 Hillcrest Loop in Astoria. I've been a part of this community for my whole life, and that is going to be 60 years in April. And I worked at the community college, and I've met a lot of people in my tenure there, and spent 30 years up there, and then I came to work for Clatsop Behavioral in 2010, it was. So I work in the adult outpatient office, and I see a lot of the clients coming in firsthand. They come to us to fill out the paperwork and set up for the assessments and meet with their clinicians. And it is overwhelming to me how they have come to grow with the experiences that they've had with us at our office and with the staff that we have for them. We also do the alcohol and drug program. We have a new program, the MAT program for medically assisted treatment. I've been in that office. I've worked in several of the offices since I've been there in the last almost 9 years. But when I started there, we didn't have all of those programs. And so as I've been there, they've continued to grow with the amount of people that have continued to grow and come there and realize that they are in a good place and that the people they're coming to see actually do care about them. We're concerned for them, for their safety, their well-being, and we always listen. We don't just, tell them that we'll take care of it without actually paying attention and trying to get some kind of resources for them outside of the therapeutic setting. And it's amazing how many of them keep coming back and saying how wonderful their life has changed or turned around because of CBH and all the people that they can trust that are there. I've had a lot of people come and go, even in my office, but the ones that are there and the ones that the clients come back and they see consistently all the time, they know that, hey, they really do care about me, they're listening to me, and they come back and they report to us how their lives have changed and how wonderful CBH services have been to them. And so I just, I'm really hopeful that you will continue in the way that we've been going with support of Clatsop Behavioral Health Care, so we can continue to support our clients in the way that they have seen it to them personally. Thank you.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Debbie. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Next is Josh Terrell.
I'm going to try and beat the timer. My name is Josh Terrell, 750 Avenue R in Seaside. I've worked with the Community Developmental Disability Program at Clatsop Behavioral Health for about 4 years. It's commonly referred to as the DD program. Our office serves about 250 people living with disabilities in Clatsop County. We've seen about a 60% increase in those numbers over the last 3 years.
I'm sorry, the last how many?
Last 3 years, I'd say. Yeah, so about 60%. We started with 150 when I got with the program, and now it's 250. So substantial, I'd say. We provide services to eligible children and adults of every age. The DD program also supports the families that hold these people closest to their hearts. We've formed relationships with every person we work with. Many of our clients and their families have come to appreciate the people in our office enough to consider them honorary family members. They feel this way because our program is so involved and supportive of them. We serve our clients by establishing services vital to the mental and physical well-being of everyone in our program. Families turn to our trusted staff for support during a crisis or just for the respite and assistance they so desperately need. Caring for a loved one with any type of disability can be an enormous task. We understand that, and taking some of the pressure out of those situations is the goal of every person in the DD program. Even more noteworthy are the people without families. In many cases, without family involvement, we've been the only consistency in these people's lives. These people turn to us for assistance with many of their life decisions, whether that's helping them set goals for the future or just giving them some honest relationship advice. Many of our clients have been in DD services for the majority of their lives. Even with a lifetime of records at our disposal, where nearly every aspect of the person's life is documented, we're constantly surprised by our ability to learn new things about a person that can't be captured on paper. It's taken years to truly get to know the people we support. The current employees of the DD program have known many of our clients since they entered services. Many of us have had relationships with clients for the last decade because of our previous careers or community outreach. Personally, my experience started about 8 years ago. I was working in homes throughout the community and providing direct support. I've spent thousands of hours getting to know some of our clients and developing lasting relationships. My coworkers all come from a similar background. The unique skills and experience offered by the current employees of the DD program would be impossible to duplicate. It would be a devastating change in the lives of our clients if the contract for DD services doesn't stay with CBH. Awarding the contract to a different agency would destroy the trusted relationships that we've built with clients through the years. It would also negate the years we've spent creating strong relationships with our community partners like the school system, child welfare, vocational rehabilitation, law enforcement, local hospitals, and all the other community resources our clients have come to depend on. I believe that CBH is the only candidate with the experience and knowledge necessary to follow through with the expectations of the DD contract. We live in a vibrant but unique community that doesn't always make sense to others. CBH has operated successfully in our community for years and has provided the DD contract. So just in closing, I'd like to say, when the time comes for you to decide, please consider this. Your decision will have a significant impact on our community. Your choice involves the well-being of our community and the people living within it. Please choose what's best for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Wise?
Good evening. I'm going to try to beat the buzzer. My name is Scott Wise. I live at 329 7th Avenue in Hammond. I'm an employee of CBH, and I've worked for the agency since...
Sir, could you come closer to that mic? So
Yeah.
I can hear you better, thank you.
How's that? Closer?
You have to eat the mic.
Okay.
There you go.
Is that good?
Thank you.
Okay. I have been employed by CBH since September 2012. I'm a certified alcohol and drug counselor, and I'm contracted to work with DHS Child Welfare as their alcohol and drug specialist. So my job is to conduct substance use screenings with parents involved in the child welfare system when there are allegations or concerns of substance use negatively impacting the safety of children. So I screen and refer parents to substance use disorder treatment programs and ancillary support services in the community, and I offer them support while they are waiting to engage in those services. I've been a certified addictions counselor in Oregon since 1999 and have worked for multiple agencies, both large and small, nonprofit and for-profit. And I can say that CBH is in many ways the best agency I've worked for. And I mean this in terms not just in the quality of services provided to persons in the community, but also in staff compensation and training, how staff are treated, overall working conditions, and commitment to the community. The agency is staffed with some of the most dedicated, compassionate, professional people I've ever had the honor to work with. The staff at CBH have developed and continue to develop critical therapeutic relationships with the people we serve. And some of these relationships, as Josh had mentioned, have been maintained for many years. Disrupting the continuity of services to our clients would be extremely detrimental to their welfare, and disruption of services is absolutely inevitable if county contracts were pulled from CBH and awarded to another organization. I've worked in my field long enough to have repeatedly observed how service disruptions affect people served. In the early 2000s, I and probably a lot of other of my colleagues watched kind of helplessly as thousands of people in the state lost their access to substance use treatment and mental health services due to massive Oregon health plan cuts. And a number of patients served by the agency I worked for at the time ended up dying of accidental overdoses and suicides due to the disruption in their treatment services. In one case, my supervisor held a phone to her ear while on the other end of the line, the mother of a former client pleaded with law enforcement to not shoot her son, who was holding a knife and threatening to harm himself if he were not allowed to resume substance use treatment services. I guess I didn't make it. I would just say that in closing, that I would ask the commissioners to also consider the almost 100 people employed by CBH. We live in this county, we work, we pay taxes, we volunteer, we vote, and many of us would be forced to leave the county if our job evaporated. I love it here. I don't want to move, especially at my age. Please don't disrupt our lives or the lives of our clients. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tabitha Brown.
My name is Tabitha Brown. My address is 502 Jetty Street in Hammond. I've been with CBH since May 31st, 2016. Prior to accepting a position with them, I didn't know backstory on CBH. Honestly, I hadn't even heard of them. I am more than grateful for the job that I have and for the people that I work with and for everything that we do. I suffer from major depression, and let me tell you, it is one of the hardest things that I deal with in my life. It is a constant struggle daily, and to know that we can take in clients and help them deal with the same things that I do, and know that we strive every single day to make sure that they are safe, that they are protected, that they are getting the help that they need. They're fed, clothes, food, everything for them. And to remove that kind of help from them you're going to see a huge decline in their mental health state as it is. We can't put that on them. We need to keep this in the community. We need to keep doing what we're doing because we're just going to keep trying harder and harder to make sure that every person that comes through our doors has a safe place and can leave there feeling more confident about themselves and can continue taking their medications on their own, can live a life on their own, or at least go somewhere where they can continue to get additional treatment with the help of the staff. And I just want to say, all the people that are here, this is the best company that I've worked for in my life. And I can't say any more than I am more than thankful to have this opportunity with them. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if this is Pat or Pete. Patton?
Sorry for the pen I was using wasn't all that writing all that well. So
Is it Pete?
Pete, yes,
Okay.
Pete Patton,
Thank you.
and I live in the West Mooring Basin, Dock A, slot 42, in my boat. Right at the beginning of getting started, really want to highlight the word integration. I've only worked for CBH for the last year. Previous to that, I interviewed for a job with the Child and Family team back in 1996. It was my first interview straight out of my master's program. I'm glad I didn't come to work for CBH at that time. I am very glad that I work for CBH now. I started working for CBH about a year and a bit ago at NCCRC, as a few of my colleagues have talked about already, working as a mental health counselor in that setting, working with the crisis team, also working to do assessments to get folks moving into outpatient services and other services that were appropriate for them. Soon after that, I realized that my gifting and my professional experience, mostly in the field of trauma, was best suited working in the outpatient setting where Debbie, who you've already heard from, works. And so in that role, I've worked with a number of clients who have had early life traumas, early life adverse experiences, and been able to provide that service. That type of treatment only works and is best delivered by an organization that is well integrated, such as CBH, where you have folks with severe and persistent mental illness who are able to come into an office like I work in and be supported by staff at Open Door, be supported by staff at NCCRC where they're either a residential or a respite client, where crisis can begin and be contained and be directed in the right direction. So all that can happen and does happen on a regular basis within CBH, and I witness that on a daily basis. And am often an active participant in that. My two other roles that I currently fill are I'm a member of the Family Treatment Court, which is run by Judge Brownhill over here at the courthouse, and I do that on Monday mornings. We work with I work with my colleague you've already heard from, Scott Wise, who we work with folks who've had their children taken for various things, mostly centered around alcohol and drug addiction. I've been able to customize that program to really actively look at those participants' histories of trauma and really speak into that and provide treatment that's appropriate. I'm also currently responsible for redesigning and reopening what was the North Coast Pain Clinic, and it's now the North Coast Wellness Center, and that is getting off the ground and will hopefully continue to be successful as a result of being a part of an integrated agency like CBH. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ann Plum.
Hi, my name is Ann Plum. I'm at 37573 Old Highway 30 in Astoria. I'm the medication technician and certified interpreter for Clatsop Behavioral Health Care.
Excuse me, could you slow down?
Sorry. As the medication technician and certified interpreter for Clatsop Behavioral Health Care, my job is to make sure clients taking medications are seen on a regular basis and have upcoming appointments. My position as a certified interpreter is to facilitate Spanish-speaking clients or their parents to get them in for appointments and communicate with our talented therapists. I have built strong connections with each of the clients I help with interpretation. Being able to speak their language makes them feel safe and comfortable with me, which allows them to have the best service possible. I am very proud of all the work we do here. Employees at CBH have one focus, and that is our clients and the communities we support. The work I do for our clients allows them to better their lives, thus bettering our entire community. For individuals with mental health barriers, continuity of care is of the utmost importance. It takes time and dedication to build trust between providers and clients, and abruptly changing that situation would have a significant negative impact on the people we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's everyone from CBH. Chris Farrar.
He's not here. Oh, he is here. Didn't see him.
My name's Chris Farrar. I live at 3023 Harrison Avenue in Astoria. This is kind of a spontaneous comment I want to make tonight, and I may ramble a bit, but I've been so moved by the last 10 or 15 speakers. I feel kind of small sitting here. They've done so much great work for our most vulnerable citizens. I'm sorry for getting so emotional about it, but I'm so impressed by the work they do. I came here, thank you. I came here tonight, actually, to talk about what I do. I wear multiple hats. Some of you may know that I'm a director on the Soil and Water Conservation Board, but I also sit as a director on the board of the North Coast Watershed Association. And that's actually why I came here tonight, because I saw that the Lower Nehalem Watershed Council coordinator was going to speak. And I want to point out that we're not in competition with each other. My association, the North Coast Watershed Association, covers the entire county of Clatsop, and we focus mainly on the watersheds that drain to the lower Columbia River and directly to the Pacific along our western shore. We do similar work to what was described so ably by the Watershed Council coordinator for the Lower Nehalem that I'm not going to try to go there, but I mainly wanted to just come and I think I've done this before, maybe a year or so ago, to tell you that I hope you think of us as kind of a resource that you can come to for issues regarding watershed health. And if anyone within your jurisdiction, within your district, comes to you with a problem about water quality or fish passage issues or erosion, things that are affecting our stream environments, we're very interested in knowing that, and we'd like to work more with the county. We actually had, until recently, one of your own county employees on our board. That was Michael Summers, who now has moved on to a new position somewhere. But we'd like to fill that board position with another county representative if possible, because we want a strong relationship with the county. And I don't know that I'll say really much more than that, but I just came here tonight to let you know that we're out there, and our watershed coordinator, Brooke Stanley, is a fantastic person. She's our executive director, and she has an office in the Spexplex building down there at on Commercial at about 8th Street. And she'd welcome any conversations that you might want to have with her about watershed health. We're trying to improve conditions for fish within our watershed, which has a direct effect on employment in the county. So it's very important. And as a matter of fact, the connection I'll make back to the last 10 or 15 speakers is that my belief is that a healthy environment helps people maintain good mental health and physical health, so it's important. And I thank you for hearing me out tonight.
Thank you, Chris. Pamela McDonald?
Hi, I'm Pamela Matz McDonald, 22 Nimitz, Astoria, Oregon. This concerns the new Clatsop County Jail. After researching the emergency power supplies of Clatsop County government buildings, I realized that a serious shaking of an earthquake will disrupt them, especially if the new jail plans to rely on a diesel-fueled generator for backup power. The current jail generator supplies 365 kilowatts. At full capacity, it uses 600 gallons of fuel per day. 1 week of use will require 4,200 gallons. Space required to store this fuel is 562 cubic feet, basically a 15-foot high, 8.5-foot diameter tank. If we are supposed to be self-sufficient for 2 to 3 weeks, a much larger tank or tanks will have to be considered. However, if a solar roof is installed with battery storage underground, more space could be allotted to jail activities and remove dangerous fuel storage, which could be a security factor. Solar could supply unlimited power with the backup of batteries for nighttime use. California is striding towards sustainable energy. Solar is a good part of their plan. Domestic manufacturers have long ago worked to solve the engineering problems concerning solar and breakage. Because of the number of earthquakes in California, rack design and materials technology have advanced methods of flexibility and survivability in violent, prolonged shaking. During an earthquake, pipes carrying natural gas will be broken unless they are fitted with flexible curved connections. The Boynton Building, County Building, and Courthouse have natural gas generators. Will their fuel source be secure? With no battery backup on the Boynton Building power, electric power that's provided by Pacific Power, that is solar, that'll only be available during the day. It would be wise to hire an architect and engineering firm which is familiar with supplying electrical energy safely during an emergency, which we are working to prepare ourselves. Now plans are in their infancy for the new jail. Please use foresight to address the needs of this new county project and consider including solar roof installation and battery storage in your plan. Thanks.
Thank you. Andrew South?
You can skip me, I came up with...
Okay, thank you. Ron Weber?
Good evening. This is back to the, Ron Weber, 42415 Evergreen Acres Lane, Seaside, Oregon. This is back to the property at 82483 Maple Road. And it's been quite a roller coaster.
Eat that mic.
It's been quite a roller coaster. Understand there are consequences. Whoops, wrong line. First off, thank you for putting so much energy, mental, physically, and spiritually into this so far to see where it's going to go and help us out. Understand there are consequences in place to whoever takes control of this property to make certain this property is cleaned up in a certain timeline. I hope the consequences are severe enough that no one allows their property to become a hopeless area of neglect again. And please back up what you say you're going to do with the consequences to do for this situation, and please don't let us fall through the cracks. And I wish whoever gets this property the best of luck, because it needs a lot of work. Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you. That concludes business from the public. And I suggest we take a 3-minute break.
Good idea.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody who came to speak to us tonight. It was very moving.
Yes.
What did you say, 3 minutes?
Yeah. So, go ahead.
No.
Don't worry. Well, I was just going to say, I sent you guys an email about that.
Oh, yeah.
Spoke about and Going kind of rogue.
You're not supposed to be doing that. That's county time.
I don't notice the county's doing any work at the moment.
I haven't done any work since we've been here. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Are you behaving yourself?
It's difficult, but I've been keeping my mouth shut.
Okay.
I plan to keep it shut too.
You know what? Your wife didn't get you properly dressed.
Oh, she lets me do my own thing.
She does?
Yeah. She's someplace else, or I'm someplace else.
I heard she was trying to keep you in line. She's been trying for about 50 years, hasn't she?
55.
55 years, and she still doesn't have it right, does she?
It's 56.
56.
Just past December.
Do you remember
What?
your wedding anniversary?
Hi.
You are so
Are you
bad.
Norman? Tom. Oh, that's right. Hi.
We're almost
Well,
that's
I
easy.
think that might be Norman. Are you
No,
Norman? Okay.
Neither Mark or I can
Okay.
ever remember.
Yeah. How are you doing? Good.
You know, we get into these big arguments. I'm like,
Yeah,
it's the 10th. He's like, no, it's the 11th. And then we have to go
We're
look
doing
it
it.
up. He's usually right, I
Yeah.
must confess.
So,
But
yeah, you
anyway,
missed,
Being married 4 days before Christmas made it easy.
Yeah.
You can't argue from
you
that.
guys had your own. Yeah.
so you're signing up for more punishment,
Did you
huh?
see there was a
What am I
newspaper
signing up
article
for?
out
Aren't you
today
going to
that
sign up for the
they-
budget committee?
It's only $9.
The budget committee?
Yeah.
I sent my name in. I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm on there.
Well, that's what they're talking about tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
I think my name was submitted, but I'm not sure.
I think it was. It's in the packet.
Yeah, to the knees and stuff. Yeah.
Myrna thinks I have too much time on my hands.
Well, see what we can do to keep you busy.
Well, as long as you leave me some time to shoot during the week.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you came to hang out with us tonight.
Competitive shooter.
Yeah, good.
Don't hit me. Sorry.
Will the commissioners please, oh, you're off. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Will the commissioners please come back to the dais? Thank you.
That was a good idea to get a little.
Okay, perfect.
Moving on to the consent calendar. We need a motion for approval.
Oh,
Do we
sure.
have a motion for,
I will make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
is there a second?
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? So the consent calendar is approved. Now moving on to the business agenda. And we're going to first hear about the Budget Committee appointments.
Yes. So there are currently 2 vacancies on the Countywide Budget Committee for Districts 4 and Districts 5. So during the month of January, we advertised these positions, and then we received a total of 4 applications. The terms for these 2 positions expire on February 28th, 2023. I provided in your packet a list of those applicants and their listed qualifications, the districts that they live within, their years of residency. And so based on that information and the fact that the goal is to try to maintain equal representation from each district, the staff is recommending that District 4 appoint Sam Patrick for a full term that expires on February 28th, 2023. He was the only applicant from District 4. And then the other applicants for District 5 were Robert Fuller and Norman Brown. Mr. Fuller has withdrawn his application due to personal reasons, and so the staff is recommending that we appoint Norman Brown for a full term as well that expires on February 28th, 2023. There are also vacancies on the 4-H Extension and Road committees, and so staff, you guys act as their budget committee as well, and for the past several years they haven't had any representation. Nobody has applied. So we did get 2 applicants for the 4-H and Extension Budget Committee. They currently do have 2 people, so I apologize when I said that they don't, because Ed Johnson and Katie Passo have been members on that for quite some time. And so the additional 2 applicants that would also have terms expiring February 28, 2023 would be Kurt England and Lois Purdue. And then on the Road District Budget Committee, who doesn't have anybody, their terms would also expire February 28th, 2023, and the appointments for that are Frank Buzzetti and Pat O'Grady. Any questions?
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
Mr. Buzzetti doesn't have an email. Will that represent difficulties in performing the work associated with that committee?
I don't know that it will, because we can communicate with him. We can call him in.
Okay. I just wondered about that. It's rare enough to warrant comment, I thought.
Yeah.
So there are 5 vacancies and there are 2 applicants?
For the Road Committee, yes. Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for a motion.
Well, I have more questions, if I may.
Yes.
It isn't required. I mean, City Councilor Montero has been a regular attender at these meetings for quite some time, and I think has demonstrated a significant interest in the operations of the county, and has a great deal of experience in dealing with budgetary matters. So if you're looking for a motion, I would move that we appoint Tita Montero to the Budget Committee. Looking for a second.
Second. It fails for want of a second.
No second?
So I'm looking for a motion. Going back to the original motion.
I'm sorry, I have a question. I'm a little bit confused. Does the fact that the staff did not recommend Tita Montero, is that because there's already a District 2
Yes.
representative?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But that's not required, if I recall.
It's not required, but as far as just equal representation among the districts, we try to keep it, there's a commissioner from each district, and so if we have applicants available for each district, we try to keep the balance of representation there.
Right, it's just that Seaside is divided between District 2 and District 5. So a person who's a resident of Seaside is close enough in my book. That was my logic.
I think it's good practice to have equal representation amongst the districts. And I'd move, since I'm on the roll, I made the last motion. I'll move.
If I could just make a correction, and if you could just make sure that Mr. Brown's, yeah,
I'll get it.
thanks.
I move that the board appoint Mr. Patrick and Mr. Brown to the Clatsop County Budget Committee, Mr. England and Ms. Purdue to the 4-H and Extension District Budget Committee, and Mr. Buzzetti and Mr. O'Grady to the Road District Budget Committee.
Do we have a second?
I second.
It is moved and seconded that the board appoint Mr. Patrick and Mr. Brown to the Clatsop County Budget Committee, Mr. England and Ms. Purdue to the 4-H and Extension District Budget Committee, and Mr. Buzzetti and Mr. O'Grady to the Road District Budget Committee. The clerk will call the roll.
I'm still thinking.
Oh, I'm sorry. We need to have a discussion. Is there any discussion? I apologize.
I have a comment I'd like to make. With all due respect of all of the people that applied for this, I'm wondering if we might not be losing one other aspect of attracting people to this, to these committees, because I think they're important committees. If there was more, I know that I'm sorry. I would like to have known further ahead without having to look through the paper and the ads that these were openings, because all of us are up here. The reason I think that we're all, if I may make a general statement, the reason that we're all up here is that we all have a lot of relations with a lot of people. We talk to the community a lot. The community talks to us. And so use us as a resource to try to get more people involved in the community. And so that's, I don't know if we need to make that as part of the policy or just encourage. And I'm not saying anything was done wrong, but I think, it's tough to find people to fill these roles just because it takes work and people are busy. And so the more people we have out there, I think the more fruitful it will be. So that's the comment I make. I don't know if my colleagues think that we need to make a motion on that. It's just something that I've been thinking about.
I can definitely do that in the future. And I would just like to comment that Mr. Patrick and Mr. Brown are both here this evening.
Could we hear from them? Is there time to hear from them?
Right now is the time for discussion between the commissioners.
Still? I mean, there's nothing that says that we can't, is there?
I will ask the parliamentarian.
Yeah, the motion of the discussion is the appointments.
Does that mean that we're not allowed to actually listen to the people who are applying?
Correct. The discussion has to be germane to the motion.
Since it involves the people who, that we're talking about voting for or not, it seems germane because I want to listen to what they have to say about the job and how they see it before I decide how I want to vote.
If the chair wishes to open up the meeting to outside participants, she can do so.
They're the candidates in
All right.
question. It seemed to me they're
Excuse me.
intimately involved.
All right. We can open that up. We don't have to have a motion for that, correct? We'll open that up.
Because we've done that before, I remember.
Yes, we have. We are trying to follow proper procedure now, Robert's rules. So as a practice, we vote, we have the discussion on the motion on the floor, and then we have a vote on that. But very well. So would the people who are here care to come forward and speak?
Hello, my name is Norman Brown. I live at 3041 Evergreen Drive in Seaside in District 5. Commissioner Thompson, I believe we co-presented our group's findings at the 2035 Visioning Plan back a couple of years ago at Seaside at the Bob Chisholm Community Center. It's good to see you again.
Good to see
I
you.
applied for this position because I thought it would be a good match for my strengths. I have a 40-year, I have an MBA and a 40-year career in human resources as both an individual contributor, a manager, and a director, a lot of which I needed to prepare budgets for. And I've created and managed significant budgets for companies in Silicon Valley. And strange as it may seem, I enjoy that kind of work. Accounting is always one of my strengths, and finance as well. And so when I saw the opening, I thought this is a great opportunity for me to be involved. I'm also on the Parks Advisory Committee at Seaside. And I thought this would be a great opportunity for me to get more involved and to use some of my skills in budgeting to understand more about what the county's challenges are, and to help them help the Clatsop County meet its challenges. Every organization needs funding, and yet I think it's the uses and opportunities of managing the expenditures that is key, because obviously funding is not unlimited. So I thought this would be a really great opportunity. I also have someone, I don't know if there's a current budget volunteer by the name of Mike on the board, but I met someone who was on the budget committee as well, and we had a good chat about how he enjoyed his participation on the board. So it even more encouraged me to seek out this opportunity, and I would like to be part of that endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Brown? Do you have any experience in applying performance measurements to the budgeting process or to budgets?
Performance measurements, yes, but more on individuals and organizations. Obviously, well, my roles in business involved heavily in staffing, and so we had measurements for a lot of cost per hire, the number of kind of the selection ratio, how many applicants, how many interviews, how many selections. And so I'm familiar with performance measurements, and I think they're going to become more and more as we have business analytics become a more funded endeavor. I think we'll see more and more of that, and yes, I think I can help out there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Patrick?
Yes, ma'am. Name is Sam Patrick. My experience with the county budget boils down to 8 years on the county commission, in which I participated in formulating 8 budgets, which was a lot of fun. If you have any particular questions that you'd like to ask me about that experience, I'd be delighted to answer.
I remember when you were running for office, it wasn't the commission, I think it was something else, and I was taking an American government civics class at the college, and you came and spoke to us.
And you survived it.
I have one question. Where are your cowboy boots?
I have a foot injury on my right foot,
Oh.
and it prohibits my wearing the cowboy boots.
Okay.
I still do it when I ride, though.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any further
I'm
questions?
curious about outcome measures, because I know that some things have remained the same. You were the first person I think I knew from Clatsop County, because you treated me kindly when we were neighbors at the Planning Commission, and not everybody else was as kind, Sam, so thanks for that. I'm impressed by the eloquence and the experience that you bring to bear. What we're looking to do, I think, is to look at outcome measures, and also we're looking again at the role of the county commissioners, because we have some some discussion going on about what is our role as commissioners. So I hope that the budget process will evolve and flex to deal with evolutionary trends.
Well, I would say that the county commission has a greater influence on how the budget is prepared and what's in the county budget than most everybody else that's employed in the county.
Thank you.
All right, so thank you very much. So we have a motion on the floor and a second. We have had, are we finished with discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing these gentlemen to come forward.
Better
I
discussion.
think that was
So-
really useful.
So the pending, the pending question is, shall the board appoint Mr. Patrick and Mr. Brown to the Clatsop County Budget Committee, Mr. England and Ms. Purdue, the 4-H and Extension District Budget Committee, and Mr. Bezzetti and Mr. O'Grady to the Road District Budget Committee? The clerk will call the roll.
Thank you. Now I'm ready to vote. Aye.
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 I'd like to thank everybody that came out to apply for this, and I vote aye.
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it, and the board has approved the appointments of Mr. Patrick, Mr. Brown, to the Clatsop County Budget Committee, Mr. England and Ms. Purdue to the 4-H and Extension District Budget Committee, and Mr. Bezzetti and Mr. O'Grady to the Road District Budget Committee.
Thank you.
Eloquent as usual.
Thank you.
Welcome to the rodeo, huh?
Okay, now, the Tobacco Retail Licensure Ordinance Draft, page 67.
So when you introduce yourself, will you please tell us what your PhD is in?
This is Mike McNichol, Public Health Director, and it's in Public Health.
Imagine that.
That's a surprise.
Kind of glad about that.
Just want to clarify that. So you got to put up with me one more time this evening. First thing, though, I want to, we're going to talk about tobacco prevention as part of the tobacco retail licensure. And some of you have heard this from last year, so I want to just make sure that everybody's up to the same speed again that before we move in. But I wanted to introduce the team. We actually have a tobacco prevention team now. So we have Bridget Blakesley. Stand up.
Isn't there something special about Bridget?
Yes, she's the daughter of Stephen Blakesley, who was a health promotion specialist here for a long time and did a lot of great tobacco work, and Way to Willville and some other things.
And Bridget, aren't you pursuing an advanced degree also? A master's, correct? Good for you.
And then next to her is Julia Hess. And she's been with us for almost 3 years now, and she's the lead on that, on tobacco. 2 years on that. And so she's our lead in tobacco prevention, is also on the Indoor Clean Air Act work. And we have Catherine Crombie is our third member, but she couldn't make it tonight. So, and I'd like to...
But we have someone right there.
Oh, and then Jill Quackenbush. But she's with another department, so. You're welcome. So we can just dive into this. I have the Bawana, though. Okay, here we go. So tobacco retail licensors, so this is the thing we'd like to show first. Which one does not require a license, and that is to sell tobacco. So that's one of the reasons why we're pursuing this. It's that's kind of a simplification of the thing, but it does kind of point towards, what might be a need for that. What will the tobacco retail licensor do? Basically, in a nutshell, require all tobacco retailers in the county to purchase a license to actually sell it. So. And what that will give us is a licensing fee. We would charge them on an annual basis to cover our costs of doing the inspections to make sure they are for youth decoys, where they go out and try to actually do buys if they're under the age of 21, and then they report that back whether or not they were successful. And then the Environmental Health Department, which is also another thing we do, is under my department. will help with that process of doing the actual checks to make sure they're following all the rules of Tobacco 21. And then the link in the chain that has to be solid is the cities will be covered by an agreement with the county. So how that means is that once we have a tobacco retail license ordinance in place, the cities, if they're going to come along, would have to adopt that ordinance by reference so that we can actually do the work in those cities. So we're spending a lot of time working on the cities as well as you guys trying to get this all coordinated and going in one direction. So why do we need it? We need to know who sells tobacco, educate them on the laws, because Tobacco 21 is about a year old, and then we need to make sure they're monitoring them for compliance. That's an important piece. And if we do have some who do sell to folks under the 21, we need to fine them and sanction them with fines or suspending that, because, you know, the overall goal of tobacco retail license course is reduce the access of tobacco and tobacco products to the under 21 crowd. So that's what the goal is. And you know, currently only federal and state inspectors, they only look at a few of the stores in the county every now and then. It's not a consistent thing. It's not very thorough. So that's why we believe we need this at the county level. So actually addressing youth access to tobacco in retail settings is a CDC, which is the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention best practice policy. They actually say this is something that will help curb access to the tobacco products. Tobacco 21 became our law in January 2018. And so we're trying to actually, the state in its wisdom decided that in order to enforce this, they push that down to the counties because the state doesn't have the resources to enforce it themselves. So that's why we're also doing this. Clatsop County is one of the several Oregon counties that are pursuing tobacco retail licensing to help enforce that. We're not the only ones. And then, and many of you we've talked about teen vaping as an epidemic. Schools have said, parents and so on have really told us about, you know, this is becoming a pretty serious problem. And the evidence, as limited as it is showing that vaping does lead onto smoking cigarettes. It's just, it's a pathway.
I'm sorry, is vaping part of that law? Is that, it kind of happened after that law?
Well,
it wasn't included, or why wasn't it included in the law?
I can have Julia come here and explain that to me, and you.
Okay. Do you need my name and address? Okay. Yes, it's part of the law.
Oh, it is.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, we.
Part of the T21 law? Yeah.
So it will be covered, so the vaping, so that's why I have her here to help me with the details. So interestingly enough, Oregon is one of the easiest states actually for folks under the age of 21 to get tobacco. If some of the data we've collected and the state shares with us is that it takes an Oregon teenager about 5 times an attempt to actually get tobacco from a retailer if they keep at it. So, you know, we need to stop making that as easy accessible at the point of sale. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to make this happen, is that if that's to keep that from happening, we'll have to sanction them or take their license or whatever we need to do, because we got to stop this problem. And that's what the Juul product looks like. It's, as you can see, the tobacco industry, who now has a stake in Juul, is following the same kind of advertising that they used to do for tobacco, and making it glamorous, making it wonderful, and look, I could be skinny and beautiful all at the same time. So,
how does one of those things work? Is it ignition, electronic or something, or?
We should have brought one. I have one in my office. The Juul ones have pre-filled pods that you buy with it, and then there's a little battery charger that will light it, and you charge it by plugging it into your computer. It's a USB.
Are you kidding me?
No, and this is why it's so easy to use in schools. Kids are doing it in schools.
It's vaporless, and so they can do it in the classroom and a teacher can't tell.
And then when they get done with these plastic devices, they become litter.
Yeah. They're a lot smaller than the other kind.
It's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
it is if you're a big tobacco.
Can I ask another question about this Juul? Are they being, is Juul a company name?
Yeah, it's a brand
This is
name.
a product name.
Yeah.
And is it, I'm sorry, and is it owned by the tobacco industry?
Well, it's partially owned by Philip Morris.
Oh, by the
Philip
by
Morris.
the, yeah, okay.
That's new, but they can see the opportunity, right? So the big tobacco hasn't gone away. They're still very creative, and so they see this as an excellent opportunity to piggyback on our product, so. And as you can see, the e-cigarette use has tripled among youth in Oregon. It's up to 17.1% in 2015 when they last measured it. My guess is probably even higher than that now.
What is the cost for this compared to a pack of cigarettes?
What, do you know what the cost is, Jewel?
It depends on the strength of the nicotine you're buying. I think when I bought it, it was $40 for the Juul and then another $20 or something for the pods.
And then they have those pods in different, like bubblegum flavor and stuff that attracts young people, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you've probably seen the vapor kind where you're driving behind a car, so this big poof of cloud comes out the window. That's the kind that actually has a vapor. The kind that they use in school has nothing, so it's very easily hidden. So they're actually smoking, right? That's what it is, these products while in class. So the teachers in the school district are actually have been, they're actually, what do we need to do? How do we need to stop this? So
do these, people that smoke, it can be relaxing for them? I don't know, I mean, my father smoked, but do they get the same effect with these Juul things?
It's pure nicotine. So nicotine is an addictive substance in tobacco. If they feel relaxed, it's because they're getting rid of their withdrawal symptoms from being addicted to nicotine.
Oh, okay.
If I understand correctly, it rewires the pleasure centers in the brain. So it's even more insidious. It's not just a temporary thing, it's an actual rewiring of the brain physiology.
And nicotine is a very, very addictive substance. It's one of the most addictive.
I
So
thought it was the most addictive.
yeah,
That's what I've read.
it's we've been told it's actually the most addictive. So they're uncontrolled amount of nicotine in those things, and the amounts they get is just as much as you can smoke, right? So, and these kids really don't know what the health effects are. They haven't studied it long enough, but some of the preliminary evidence is showing that it does have pretty significant.
So it's
health
not
impact.
like smoking a pack a day anymore, it's almost unmeasured. Is that right?
One pod contains, depending on the strength of it, as much nicotine as a pack of cigarettes.
But I mean, also the terms of, they used to measure, well, he's a 2-pack a day smoker. That no longer applies with.
That doesn't apply anymore because it's different strengths again. I learned a lot by going into our local vape store here. He told me everything I wanted to know. They tend to, because it's flavored and it's not as harsh, although I've heard reports that it is harsh, they tend to inhale deeper and longer and get more.
I've also read that smoking, not necessarily vaping, because I read this before, that it's especially harmful for women and young women because it does something with their hormones, and it is even more addictive for women and damaging and harder for them to quit.
And the third point on this slide, Commissioner Thompson noted that the adolescent brains are more vulnerable to negative consequences of nicotine. Like she noted, it's really impactful. So
They're still developing, and if they're
right. So and the U.S. Surgeon General's, this is just last December, 3 months ago, said that we have never seen use of any substance by American young people rise as rapidly as e-cigarettes, ever. That's a pretty big statement. So you can see here, youth have used Juul flavor pods in the past 30 days. So they obtained the device in the following ways. Physical retail locations, 74%. So they're actually going in the store and they're buying it and they're using it. 52% from a social source, peer groups, parents, who knows, and 6% from the internet.
What's preventing them from using the internet more often? Is it just easier to get it locally, or?
Don't know.
Those numbers didn't add up to 100.
Yeah.
That's because they have multiple.
Right. There could be multiple answers to those.
I didn't read that part. All right.
Fine print.
So Oregon law requires vape products to be behind the counter, so they're not supposed to be out and to be completely open and visible to the folks. That's one thing we would be looking for if we pass tobacco retail licensing. In the summer of 2018, Julia went out and Jill went out and did some assessments around and went to some of these retail places, showed a large number of vape products were actually on the counter, which is what they're not supposed to be. And then, so our tobacco retail license ordinance as written in the draft form would ensure that retail education enforcement of these rules would be done at the local level with experts such as Julia. So here's kind of what we've done so far. We are now into, where are we? We're actually talking to you. We're off the chart. So these are the things we've accomplished here. So we've done so much, we have to have another chart. You can see we've had some great opportunities to speak to quite a bit of folks. Julie and her team's done a lot of work on this. We actually have met with the Cannon Beach City Council, sort of just discussing this draft ordinance about whether or not they would support it or not. They had nearly consensus that they probably would. A meeting with the City of Gerhardt City Council in April and talking to them. So we're going to try to meet with all the city councils, Seaside, Warrenton, and Astoria here when they let us. So, retail assessment prevention coordinator, I think we're still going to do that here. We're doing community education, and so we sort of, I've taken the lead on doing the city outreach. I want to work with them so that it gives them, my staff, a little bit. They can go to the meetings, get all the feedback, and then we can come back and meet with them again and make sure we're meeting their needs in this. And we also want to support the schools in trying to figure out how to deal with a vaping epidemic in the schools. So here's the basic components of an effective tobacco retail licensure, and I'm not going to read it because, well, I can't. It's just too small. So, but you can read it yourself and see that there's 6 steps to it. We're in the middle of getting this to you as a draft ordinance. At some point in the future here, we're going to be coming to you to look for going through an ordinance process for passage here at the county level. So once it's actually adopted at the county level, we'll then go to the cities that have said, yes, we will, and ask them to adopt it by reference, so then we would have the entire county covered. So that's our plan.
So you're working on writing
plan.
out the ordinance that we would then pass?
Right, you have a draft of it in your packet, so that's the one that we'll bring to you at some point. So if you have feedback for it, please send it back to us, either in writing or just come see us. We'd be happy to make sure that we can answer your questions or address those issues that you have for it.
Because I thought we were going to do that tonight, but it's just a draft.
It's just a draft.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can
but
you fast track this, please?
Yeah.
Well, we can if you'd like us to.
Uh-huh. Well,
Fast track it.
So I see a motion in here, right?
yes, I have a question.
Sure.
Are there any other questions from other commissioners? Okay. Is this, the one that you talked about, the Juul, does it also explode like some of the others?
I think
Yes,
it
they
does,
explode.
yeah.
I know they've caused severe injuries.
Yeah.
Really? What do you?
Oh, yes.
So, well, for some reason, sometimes they overheat and then they can explode, and you could have it in your pocket and you get severe third-degree burns, or burns up your house or whatever.
Or
I mean,
on
they've
your
had
face.
certain incidents where these things have actually caught on fire. So kind of like your Samsung, I guess. I don't know.
True
But
for
anyway.
public health and public safety.
Yeah, two things at
Madam
once.
Chair, I move that the board approves to allow public health staff to reach out to all city governments in Clatsop County to secure agreements to adopt the ordinance by reference when the ordinance is adopted by the Board of County Commissioners.
Is there a second?
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the board approves to allow public health staff to reach out to all city governments in Clatsop County to secure agreements to adopt the ordinance by reference when the ordinance is adopted by the Board of Commissioners.
Discussion?
Yes.
So this is implying that, like we had just talked about, I just want to make this clear, that this is a draft of an ordinance. It's not the completed ordinance. But what this motion does is allows you to talk to the city as you're updating in this ordinance.
Correct.
And if anybody has some input, we can give that to you.
And then after we've had those initial conversations with the cities, we'd like to come back, tell you what those conversations were about, if we have full support, and then we can bring the ordinance up to the process for adoption at the county level.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to say one thing. At the Association of Oregon Counties, there were some folks who were concerned that it was burdensome on store owners and operators. And so I respect that concern because we don't want to make it onerous for people. We just want to keep our kids from getting addicted and dying sooner.
Right, and so we actually did have some outreach. We've invited the folks who are at the retail level to come and talk to us. We had actually a meeting in here, frankly, and we had 2 of the retailers come, but we're going to have to do more work than that to talk to them. Yeah.
On one of the last slides, we mentioned one of the things we're working on is retail assessments, and so we've developed where Jill is developing an assessment questionnaire, and we're reaching out to all of the retailers, so we can go talk to them, listen to them mostly, and see what their concerns are and how we can address them.
Thank you.
And it's not a big fee compared to the profits they make. So.
And it's clearly a public health and public safety. It's just to respect people's business operations while we're doing good work.
What's the cost for a Christmas tree license?
I don't know.
I'll bet you know.
I don't. Not here. I mean, yeah.
That may have been a rhetorical question.
But, yeah.
I want to thank your whole team for working on this. Thank you. It's important work.
Yeah, we got a great team. I'm real happy with they're doing work that's just absolutely amazing for a small county. So we're actually a state leader. If we actually make this happen, we'd actually be a state leader in this, and they're actually looking to us as a model. So.
Yay. Good job.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks, Dr. McNichol.
I'll make him blush.
Is there further?
I'm sorry.
Lisa, what did you? Yes, we do. Is there further discussion? Okay. The pending question is, shall the board approve to allow public health staff to reach out to all city governments in Clatsop County to secure agreements to adopt the ordinance by reference when the ordinance is adopted by the Board of Commissioners? An aye vote will adopt the motion, a no vote will defeat the motion. The clerk will call the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair Neverga, I'd like to apologize for overstepping my ground there with my discussion. I apologize. I should have been more cognizant of that. We had a...
Good, we're learning.
Okay, so I vote yes.
Aye.
Aye. So, yes, thank you. The ayes have it. All right. Moving on to the pay equity consultant selection. Okay. That
Now, how do I
is
follow up after
page
that?
67.
Hopefully, this will be pretty straightforward. So I don't have much more to add than what I've included in my agenda summary discussing awarding the contract for the conducting a pay equity study. This Oregon Pay Equity Act has been signed it was signed back in, it's been in a step process, 2015, 2017, and now January 1st, 2019, the entire act is effective, and all employers, regardless of the size of the employer, are required to comply with the act. So one of the ways that we can ensure compliance with this act is to look for a consulting firm that is skilled in the area of conducting a pay equity study. So that's what I'm bringing forward to you today. I put forth a request for quotes, and I've had 2 respondents, which are the 2 proposals you have in your packet, one from HR Answers and the other one from Siegel Waters Consulting. And as you can see from my agenda summary, I've kind of mapped out why staff is recommending going with HR Answers. I feel it's pretty straightforward from a cost standpoint, from a familiarity with the county standpoint, and also that they are an Oregon-based firm. So I will just stop talking and allow you to ask me some questions.
Other questions?
I have some questions. I've been thinking about that. Well, because I think about stuff, right? The county's an employer. By charter, commissioners are not employees, yet we do work for the county. So where, and this is perhaps a question for legal counsel, because if we are not employees but we're still working for the county, does equal pay or pay parity or wage equity or whatever apply to us, because the county does give us money and we do work for the county?
I will defer to legal counsel.
That's why we pay you the big bucks, right?
I will probably want to do some research on that rather than answer on the fly. I will say that what you receive for your volunteer services is a stipend and not a salary, and there's a huge difference in the law between a stipend and a salary. But as to your exact answer, I'd really like to spend some time and look at the cases and see what it says.
And I apologize, I have to think about this, it has to percolate through, because it is money in our pocket, and we are working, and it is for the county. So I just wonder about that. And because there's room in this contract, because you're such a good negotiator, I guess, or they're willing or whatever, there might be some flexibility in addressing this issue were we to decide that's what we wanted to do. So, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
So is part of the reason that we need to have this company come in is that the law is complicated?
The law is extremely complicated. I've been speaking with other HR directors and managers across other counties and cities. Everybody is going with a consulting firm because it is so complicated, and you're talking about people's pay, and then you're also talking about hiring practices and hiring on new employees. That's a minefield to walk through, in addition to the day-to-day functions that we as HR professionals have to do. There's a layer of protection of handing over our pay schedules, our union contracts, our personnel policies to an independent consultant to really take a look at the total compensation we offer to our employees to ensure that it's equitably applied.
And so this is obviously the desire is that to remove inequities.
Yes.
To make things more equitable.
To ensure that we are paying equitable. Given the parameters that the law does lay out, we do have a lot of things in place, like a merit-based system, a seniority-based system that complies with the law. So my hope is bringing the consultant in is going to verify a lot that we are doing the right things, just ensuring our internal processes are where they should be.
There are a lot of ways to go wrong, and it's going to be hard to go right. So I really am glad we're doing this. This, I think, is incredibly important, and it avoids a lot of potential exposure to risk. So well done.
It does.
Would you care to make a motion?
Absolutely. Madam Chair, I move that the board authorize the county manager to sign a personal and professional services agreement with HR Answers, Inc. to conduct a pay equity study for a not-to-exceed amount of, this is pretty precise, $39,520, and authorize the county manager to sign contract amendments as necessary to complete the study.
Second.
It is moved and seconded that the board authorize the county manager to sign a personal and professional services agreement with HR Answers, Inc. to conduct a pay equity study for a not-to-exceed amount of $39,520 and authorize the county manager to sign contract amendments as necessary to complete the study. Is there any discussion?
Call the question.
Clerk calls the roll.
So pending question is that the board authorize the county manager to sign a personal and professional services agreement with HR Answers, Inc. to conduct a pay equity study for a not-to-exceed amount of $39,520, and authorize the county manager to sign contract amendments as necessary to complete the study. The clerk will call the vote for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to try something and see how this goes. There's many legislative bills before us on the state level, and if the commissioners would, let's try to be brief, but if there's any particular, or staff, particular bills that you would feel strongly about that you want to discuss that have not already been discussed with Senator Johnson or Representative Mitchell.
Madam Chair, I'm looking for clarification. Every month I go to the Governance Committee of the Association of Oregon Counties. There are other committees that meet during that time. I can only go to one committee meeting at a time. So I go to Governance Committee, then I'm Vice Chair of Transportation and Community Development. I cannot at the same time go to the Natural Resources Committee. I can't go to Human Services where housing is discussed. Those policy committees at the Association of Oregon Counties, I keep urging my colleagues to come, or if they're able to. It's a robust discussion by professional experts in lobbying who are devoted to raising issues that relate to counties. I mean, part of what we pay our dues is so that we can use their policy expertise to cull out the various bills and to discuss them in the committees and to make recommendations as a body. So that's part of what I do every month. When I said I'm frustrated because I don't know how to integrate the work I'm doing with what we do, one of the main areas of concern is during a legislative session, I spend a lot of hours both looking at bills, discussing them, listening to other county commissioners and judges, because there's a hefty representation right now. So I don't know how, for example,
is there a particular bill that you're concerned about?
I have a bunch of bills,
Oh.
but my concern is like a process issue ongoing. So we kind of jump in and say, well, I want to talk about this bill or I want to talk about that bill, but there are 2,000 bills in this legislative session that have come out, and a bunch of them impact us. You know, Senator Girard's bill, SB 621, holy cow. I mean, of course it's a great concern to me, but to step back from an immediate bill and an immediate concern is, how do we as a board want to handle all of this legislation when we've got AOC? I spoke briefly with Commissioner Webb because, you know, she talked about coming to Natural Resources. She said, well, and I don't want to speak for you, but, you know, maybe there are people there who don't share your opinion. So part of what happens there is that we talked, for example, in the Legislative Committee about the bills that Commissioner Sullivan is raising. I didn't have a chance to listen to the Natural Resources Committee debate, because what I often learn is there are unintended consequences for various bills. So when we're looking at what we want to do and what we want to say, to just jump in and say, oh, I want this bill and this bill and this bill and this bill, I mean, I could spend a lot of time doing that, but how do we as a body address the issues that are of concern to Clatsop County residents and taxpayers? I'd like us to consider that before we just talk about any particular bill. And I don't...
Well, perhaps we don't need to do this. I mean, this is,
I'm the one that asked to put it on, and the reason being is because I have been getting emails from each of you asking to pass this information on. And one of the questions Commissioner Webb had was, where is the board at on this particular bill? And my response was that the board as a body has not made a decision. And so I wanted to provide you guys with the opportunity, because if there is a particular bill that you guys do want to be able to say, hey, this one is coming up, we want to be able to speak as not just a citizen of Clatsop County, but as a commissioner for Clatsop County, and have the opportunity to say, we as a body are supportive of such and such bill.
But the problem I have with it, we heard last meeting, Commissioner Sullivan appeared and testified in favor of House Bill 2020. I have a lot of concerns about that. I've been working on that. I have not appeared to testify for or against, because what I continue to do, and did Monday of this week, is to speak to look at how does it impact Clatsop County people, and how do we negotiate with the legislature on that. So I think we've seen in various instances, we have differences of opinion, and we don't have the time to do the informed decision making. So we don't have, I've got a very sweet letter here from the superintendent of state police, because I showed up to testify for their budget.
Commissioner Thompson, if I may.
So I did that.
I would like to hear from other commissioners
Okay.
if they
All right.
have a particular bill that they are interested in. And let's just take two.
I have a selfish one, because I've been involved with this like for the last 2 bienniums when we've talked about levies and levy assistance. I always ask the same questions when we have Senator Johnson on the conference calls, which I think is a great opportunity to kind of get a feel for what these bills are and how they might impact our community. So I'm glad that we have those every month, and it is open to all of us to participate in. So it's a great resource to be able to bounce things off of her and get her opinion on things. SB 254 and SB 432 are both regarding levy assistance funding. We have a lot of dikes and levees in Clatsop County. Some of them are active, some of them are inactive, some of them need improvements. This would provide $10 million into the Infrastructure Finance Authority. It would also allow for a mechanism to give grants to certain jurisdictions. Any ones that's in control of a diking district would be eligible, and it's 80-20, so these grants would actually be 80% state funding and 20% to the sponsor, which is, what a great deal. And in the past, these have always been loans. And so cities like Warrenton have not been able to really take advantage of them, because there's no way to repay these loans back. And $10 million is very, very minimal when it comes to the grand scheme of things. But I think it's a good start, and I certainly support it. I'd love to see the county commission support it. The city of Warrenton has already written a letter in favor of it, so they've testified to the last hearing, and it's going to be in front of Ways and Means, so it'll be in front of Senator Johnson's committee next, or in her hearing next. So it'd be great if we could. I'd love to see us lend our support to it.
Commissioner, can you give me those bill numbers again?
It's SB 254 and SB 432. They're reciprocal. They're both together.
No, you mean
Four-
HB.
432?
No, they're Senate bills. They're not reciprocal, so it's not HB and SB. They're both Senate bills.
And what,
And 254 is actually the one that provides the $10 million in the funding to Infrastructure Finance Authority. And then 432 is the one that provides for the grants. So that it actually,
Okay.
I might have those backwards, but it's one's actually allocating the money, the other one's saying how it can be dispersed.
oh, okay.
Is there anything going on in the House about this bill?
No, that's all I know, is it's the Senate bills.
Because we could check on the AOC list. I have been attending by phone the natural resources meetings every Monday. And I'm remembering that there has been discussion about this. I agree with you. I think $10 million is hardly.
Nothing.
But if we can get something started,
Yeah.
that would be pretty terrific.
Mm-hmm.
The other opportunity, do you have any idea what the hearings, or if
So
they're
they-
hearing scheduled?
Usually they meet on Fridays, and it wasn't scheduled for this Friday, but I don't know when it will be.
Oh,
They haven't
okay.
scheduled it for the, they haven't scheduled a hearing for,
Okay.
at this point.
So has it been, has
It's
it?
already come out of Natural Resources, so
Oh.
it got recommended.
Okay.
It was unanimous, and so it went to Ways and Means, and that's where it will be considered next.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And I, if I may say, I think that we're incredibly lucky to have the amount of funding that's come to our area because of Senator Johnson's leadership, and I appreciate that. I think it's also, when you say that the Natural Resource Committee, that's with AOC, has recommended these bills, correct?
No, it's the Senate.
Oh, it's the Senate. The Senate's
Environmental-
themselves.
Environment and Natural Resources Committee, and they've already passed it.
And so what you're hoping,
It's already been approved and
And
recommended.
AOC did support it.
I think so. I don't
so what
I
you're,
don't know what AOC's position
what
is.
you're hoping is a letter of support from the board, right?
So it looks
Okay.
positive. That's good.
Yeah.
So, Monica, do you think that it would be good, we could entertain for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes other commissioners' bills? Probably no more than that. And that we should then think about this and then come back at the next meeting? Or do you see someone
Well,
making a motion that we
I'm
have a
going to
letter
defer
written in
to county
support?
council on that question.
Okay.
I think you have it on your agenda. Basically, on some of these, you're not going to have time to come back for another meeting. If it's going to Ways and Means this week and you want to impact that,
I don't think it's going this week, but
Okay.
it will soon.
will it before the next meeting and you want to impact that,
That's
then
a
you
really
can,
good
you
point.
can direct a letter by consensus.
That's a good point. Okay, so,
Well, and if there's no House bill yet,
It's got to cross over
Well, I
Yeah.
don't know.
from the
This has
Senate to
been-
the House.
yeah, so
okay.
that's time.
So do we pretty much
Well-
agree that we are supportive of this?
Oh, I
or-
could support this, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gates and politics.
All right, so then we would like to have a letter drafted.
Well,
I'm happy to help on it.
We need a motion? Okay, we need,
can we do them all? Can we just do a list and?
let's do them one at a time. So,
I'd make a motion to draft a letter of support for SB 254 and SB 432.
I second.
okay, could you repeat that, please?
I'd make a motion for the county commission to support Senate Bill 254 and Senate Bill 432.
Okay, so it's been, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on this before we go to a vote? Okay, so the question is, should the board support?
254 and 432.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye. Oh, should we have to go by his name?
Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
I would like to talk, do I wait to be recognized here?
Yes, but, yes.
If we're doing it one at a time, the House Bill, doggone it, the one on the neonics, the killing bees. Let me.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I sent that information out to House Bill 3058 and Senate Bill 5853.
What was the last one?
Senate Bill 553.
Okay.
553. And House Bill?
3058.
And what are these?
It's concerning, let me see here. It's concerning two chemicals that are used to spray, and they're killing our pollinators.
Yes.
And they also have negative impacts on public health and wildlife health. And these chemicals are not used in the chemicals that are used in forest management. So these two are separate. I don't know, I don't know where they're at. I don't think they have I don't think these bills have as much backing as the levy bills do. But I think that these are serious chemicals, and I would like to show some leadership on getting them out of our environment.
And I do remember reading something that you had sent on, but I don't remember now. Where are they used?
They're used in agriculture, and they're also used residentially. They're used. So
They're not used in forestry, right?
That's what I've been told. Yes.
Mhm.
That there's a wide range of chemicals being used in all different directions and all different industries. But these two in particular, especially the neonics, as they are referred to, as from my understanding, they know for certain that they are injuring the pollinators, and that I just talked to a state person that he said those they just need to be gone, and so I don't know what chance the bill has, but I would like to have a letter in support of those two bills.
Well, I've been concerned for years. I mean, all the coastal areas, these are the most sensitive areas in the world. All of, the edges along the continents. And when chemicals are used, they can go into the water. And it's not just affecting humans, it's affecting everyone.
There's a lot of information out on this, and we don't have time to read it tonight, but insects are the basis of food. They're the low part of the food chain that is, birds depend on, fish depend on, all sorts of animals depend on insects. And there's a lot of evidence coming out that the insects are in a lot of trouble. And so these are not going to solve all the problems, but it's a start.
What kind of agriculture use it? I'm just curious on that.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I just know that it's that in these substances are showing up in apples and in farm products. And so I think when they get used, they kind of stay in the soil. I'm not an expert on it. I can't even.
So
pretend.
Commissioner Webb, though, she listened, and my concern is what happens to agriculture. Because of course, my first instinct is to leap to protect the bees, of course, and the organic farmers. But what about?
It's not just organic farmers.
No, but I'm just talking about that's my first instinct. Okay. So Commissioner Webb, you said you listened to that.
I have not. I haven't heard any discussion about this.
Okay, so I thought they discussed
At
these
AOC.
bills in that committee. They did.
I may have missed it. I'm sitting at my desk with a cup
Okay.
of coffee in front of me,
Okay.
and
Okay.
Well, some of the information that I sent is if we lose our pollinators,
no, that's
all of agriculture is in trouble. All of agriculture is
How
in
about
trouble.
if we do this? If you want to make a motion, and there's a second, then we can have further discussion, we can vote on it.
Okay.
That might expedite things more.
I would like to make a motion that the Clatsop County Board supports House Bill, and I missed it again.
3058.
3058 and Senate Bill
53.
553. And the hearing, this is not part of the amendment, but
Well,
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners supports House Bill 3058 and Senate Bill 553.
Okay, but my concern is what happens to agriculture? Are there other alternatives that can be used so that we can maintain the food supply system for people?
other than having pollinators in the environment?
I guess my only thing, I just don't know enough about it, to be honest. I wouldn't say that I would not support. I guess I need to know more about what it is that we're talking about.
And I respect that. It's a complicated thing. That's why I sent out the information
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Well, I saw the information, but I didn't see the whole discussion, because I know it's a quick, easy thing, because of course, we want to defend the critical element, and that is, of course, the pollinators. And what else are people going to do so that we have food? So I want to see how that transition will be handled. So I'm asking also for more information, because I, generally speaking, support it, but I don't know enough. I think that's an accurate phrase.
Well, I know that from what I have, I'm sorry.
Did we have a second?
I did.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
I know that from, the articles, I have a couple here on the, from The Guardian, the information that I sent, the websites. If you go online and you put these chemicals in, there's tons of information about it. And so I think there's enough evidence out there by people that are studying and have in-depth knowledge when they say, we've got to do something and we can start with these. That's good enough for me. And the public hearing is, I think, March 26th. So if we were going to send a letter of support, if we don't have a letter of support agreed upon by this today, then it's going to be too late by the next time. So.
Yeah, I'm remembering now, I have read something about this, and about this particular chemical that you just that you mentioned, the neonics. Yeah, and I read something about, let's see, so Oregon State received a $17 million grant last year, a couple of years ago, to study these chemicals that come on board, about 2,000 every year. And that
come
on board into our environment every year, because the EPA and the FDA, they do not have the means or the staff to study this. So Oregon State has taken it upon them. I don't know how they can possibly do it, but this was one of the items, I believe. So I'm supportive of this. So is there further discussion? Okay, we can, so before us is that Clatsop County Board of Commissioners would supports House Bill 3058 and Senate Bill 553. Will the clerk call the vote?
Yes, Commissioner Thompson? Abstain, I don't know enough.
I have to do the same.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
Commissioner Netter?
Aye.
And when we...
So, thank you.
So I'm wondering about the form of these letters, and then there may be some other bills that we want to discuss. Will we just write one letter and just have the listing of the...
I don't know. We can...
Because we don't really
talk,
need verbiage, do we? Or just the...
Just work out the details.
I would think if you wanted to be effective, you would write on each one and send it to the appropriate committee that would be reviewing it.
Yeah.
I think if you just send one in general, it may be not viewed as serious.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, I'd be
so-
happy to help with writing it, so.
Great. So it's going on 9 o'clock.
I have a couple of bills.
Couple of bills.
Well, they're not controversial, okay? So House Bill 3110 is sponsored by Representative Bonham. It creates Oregon Rural Capacity Board in Oregon Business Development Department to assist rural counties and cities and special districts located in rural areas to apply for and manage public and private funding opportunities for purposes of workforce and economic development. So it authorizes the department to enter into agreement with AOC and LOC to operate the center. So basically what it will do will be to help rural areas. It only asks for $875,000. So, I mean, it's piddling, but you know what? It'll help us, Frank, it'll help us do more economic development in rural areas. So that's House Bill 3110.
And what was the other one?
The other one is about abandoned property, which is...
What is the name of it?
HB 2982. And I don't know what the Senate side is, but Senator Steiner Hayward signed on along with Representatives Helm and Lewis. It authorizes local officials to determine whether residential properties subject to ongoing foreclosure or forfeited proceedings, and maybe you've got this one already and I just didn't catch it, are abandoned. And it requires the interest holders to abate, neglect, and monitor abandoned. It just gives us more oomph when we want to get a faster track toward dealing with abandoned property. So I like House Bill 2982. I like House Bill 3110. I want to see economic development. I want to see us have more tools to deal with abandoned properties.
I would like to, yeah, we should have a discussion after. Let's do these one at a time.
Sure.
So, actually, can we have questions for staff? On the second one, I would like to defer to staff about.
Suzanne, would you, that was on the list.
Was it on your list too?
Yeah. The House Bill 2982, as far as the abandoned properties, expediting the process.
The committee liked it.
Is it AOC supported?
AOC, yep, it passed both governance and the legislative committee. They want to do amendments, the mechanics of due process, remediate more quickly from 6 years to fewer. So they're looking, right now it's 6 years, that's a long time. They're looking to have it be, the bill I think now says 1 year and they want to make it like 3 years, which is, you know, it helps.
Okay.
It's a better
Commissioner
trend.
Thompson, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I move that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners support House Bill 2982, dealing with abandoned property. And I'll give you my notes.
I have it back at my office.
You've got it.
Thank you.
You're all good. Okay.
So primarily that is shortening the time it would take to take somebody's property away?
We need a second.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Okay, so the motion is that the board supports House Bill 2982 regarding abandoned property. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so this has been seconded, and now we can have discussion.
I can't remember, oh.
Yeah, I need to know a little more about what it changes, I guess.
It shortens the time frame.
Well, but we're mixing two words here, foreclosed and abandoned.
Oh.
And those are two legally very different things.
They are.
This
Says
covers both?
foreclosure or forfeited proceedings are abandoned. It says authorizes local officials to determine whether residential properties subject to ongoing foreclosure or forfeiture proceedings are abandoned. So if they are determined to be abandoned, then it, as I understand, it's like a shortcut. So it foreshortens the process to maintain, really to protect the property.
Right, right.
Does that make sense?
The legal term for these is zombie houses.
They do, they said that, but I didn't write it down. I don't like zombies.
And this is AOC supported, they.
Yeah, yeah, it's right here.
Could I ask our Community Development Director to weigh in? Is this something you've looked at, Gail?
I can say it's something the county councils have certainly talked a lot about. What happens is the mortgage companies will foreclose on a house, but then they don't finish the foreclosure so that they don't have to pay the property taxes or pay the homeowner's dues or take any responsibility for the place. But the people who own the house have moved out and left it. And then drug addicts or criminals move into it and the neighbors can't get rid of them. That's what's the impetus of this legislation, is to try and deal with that.
And we know how this works in our very own county.
We know exactly how it works. And you know, at the last county college meeting, I was talking with a group of other commissioners, and I was really amazed at how common this issue is throughout Oregon.
Is it just Oregon, or is it other states also?
Other states too.
Well, I think there are I think other states handle it differently. I think that was the discussion that we were having at County College, was that, gee, can't we come up with something, because the foreclosure process is ORS driven. It's, local, we don't really have a lot of control over it. So it's definitely a statewide issue.
Yeah. Is it, if I may ask the county council, are there safeguards in place where there'll be due process and whatnot? It's not just.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's clear on that.
Okay, are we finished with discussion? Okay. So before the board, motion is that the board supports House Bill 2982 regarding abandoned property, and this has been seconded. We've finished discussion. Let's call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you. The other one is that Economic Development Bill, House Bill 3110. An Oregon Rural Capacity Board, what we're looking
Wait,
at.
let's,
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
why don't you make the motion, and then we'll have a second and a discussion.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so I move that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners support House Bill 3110, an economic development bill.
Second.
Thank you.
Discussion?
You want to hear more?
Yes.
Okay. Creates Oregon Rural Capacity Board within the Oregon Business Development Department to assist rural counties and cities and special districts located in rural areas to apply for and manage public and private funding opportunities for purposes of workforce and economic development. It authorizes the department, that's the Oregon Business Department, to enter into agreement with the Association of Oregon Counties and League of Oregon Cities to operate the center. So that's a familiar model that has worked well with a variety of issues. Requires the department to submit an annual report to the interim legislative committees related to economic development, setting forth findings related to operation of center by association and league, if applicable, and metrics related to assistance given by center to counties, cities, and special districts. Appropriates money, $875,000. So it's not a lot of money. So it's basically funding a pilot project. We were looking at doing the same thing on housing staff in Oregon Housing and Community Development. So the League of Oregon Cities and the Association of Oregon Counties are working with local rural areas particularly, because Oregon Housing and Community Services wants to get housing in rural areas. We don't have the infrastructure to even apply for the grants.
So is it one center for the entire state? Or is it a center in each county?
It's
No, the money is going to AOC and LOC.
Yeah, but it will create a center, but it will be dispersed through AOC and LOC out to all over the state.
I have a hunch that this is addressing something that the state housing study has been talking about. There are...
And sorry, this one is not about housing. This is about ECDev and workforce development, but it's a similar model.
But I mean, the housing study talked about this, about the issue that housing, that economic development in rural areas, there are a myriad of programs, I used to work for one of them, which fund rural development projects. But the issue becomes, we're here, we happen to have an EDA-approved economic development district. That's what Colpack is. But in a lot of places, you don't have that capability. And so it's the capacity building element, I think, in this bill is what's important.
Right, and Colpack is really Mary MacArthur, and somebody in the office. So this would enrich it and make it possible. They say there's low-hanging fruit. Well, this will help us reach the low-hanging fruit in economic development and workforce development. And that's really the antidote to so many other issues.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So I like this a lot.
We have a motion and a second.
Yes, we have a motion, and a second. Is there further discussion? If not, would you read your motion, please, Commissioner Thompson?
Madam Chair, I move that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners support House Bill 3110.
Okay, so the clerk will call for the vote.
Aye.
I don't know a lot about this, so I'm just not sure. You said it's going to work through AOC?
AOC and LOC to get the money dispersed.
Because don't we have CEDAR? Doesn't CEDAR do that for us?
That's Kevin Leahy who's trying to figure out how
We
he
have
can.
a vote on the floor.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to figure out how to, so
we
we
didn't
can't talk about that now. Okay, well then I abstain.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank
I
you.
don't think I voted.
Oh, you didn't? Oh,
Oh, you voted.
You said aye.
it's getting
Say
late.
There
yes.
should be an age limit for,
There should be a time limit, but never
getting
mind.
late.
Thank
Okay.
you for your indulgence.
Let's
Connie.
move on to commissioners' reports.
I had one more bill that I wanted to bring up. It's the in the debt-based driver license suspension. I know we talked about that in the conference call. But to me, I just can't get over the fact of a 20-year suspension of.
I know.
I mean, that just blows my mind. I mean, there are other ways to try to get at debt than suspending. And I think that Commissioner Hall is correct.
Okay, so just make a motion.
I make a motion that we support. I believe it's House Bill 2614.
did we support it?
Yeah. No, isn't it to overturn it? Let me see here. Let me go back to basics. It's House Bill 2614 in debt-based driver license suspension. It talks about that.
It would repeal driving privilege suspension and limits imposition of driving privilege restrictions for failure to pay fine.
Right, because, yeah.
So if you supported it, then you would support repealing the bill.
Okay.
Okay,
So that's my motion.
so would you please repeat the motion?
I make a motion that we support House Bill 2614 in debt-based driver license suspension. Would that be correct, Monica? Okay.
Yes.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, we have before us the motion that the board support House Bill 2614 in debt-based driver's license suspension. The clerk will call for the vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Now we're moving on to commissioners' reports.
These are long meetings.
Okay.
Before we do that, can I make a statement for the record? Is that in order? I am very concerned about the lack of a strategic plan for our activities in the legislature.
Maybe you could give your report and put that into it. This could be, let's do this.
Okay.
So do you want to let her make her report now, and then
Yeah.
she can just
Yes.
roll it on?
Okay. I have a report. And I have put it in writing.
Oh, that's very impressive.
I am, let the record show that Commissioner Sullivan is very impressed by my written. Okay. First of all, for a few kudos for our remarkable health department. There are, I don't know if you all are aware, but there are 15 programs that our public health department runs. And now that I'm an avid attender of their monthly staff meeting, I'm always blown away by the by the energy which their entirely female staff puts into their work. But
Mike is not a female.
excuse me,
Mike is not a female.
who's not a female?
Just for the record.
McNichol, the
new
director.
doctor on board.
Oh, Dr. McNichol,
Yes.
you mean? Okay, okay, gotcha. But little, and it's so amazing to me how on the ground little things mean so much. We have there are several staff people who are affiliated with the WIC program, Women's and Infants and Children, and they have a very aggressive program encouraging new mothers to breastfeed their babies, and it is a very ambitious program. They do a lot of work, and recently they have an initiative going linking breastfeeding to being prepared for an emergency. And they have actually calculated the cost of not breastfeeding, the cost of bottle feeding infants over given periods of time, and are basically saying, however, if you breastfeed, you have no costs. And in the case of an emergency, you would probably not have access to bottles and fresh water that has to be used to sterilize those bottles, et cetera, et cetera. So it's sort of one more quiver in there for them to use in encouraging mothers to breastfeed. And I just thought that was pretty cool, just very, very cool, linking those two issues. We've already shared the fact that Mike McNichol has just received his PhD in public health, which I think is very admirable. Another issue from the health department is that they recently received a triannual audit from the Oregon Health Department, and they received really magnificent score. The points involved are 650, and they got a 650 out of 650. So perfect. So a perfect score. So I think we need to celebrate and laud that. The only other thing I have is that I have been participating in two month-long projects that are basically planning. One of them is the Working Lands and Conservation Program, which is being staffed by ODF&W. And they are bringing together both farm and forest interests to develop a 50-year vision for the Coast Range and the coast. The program will move forward with community conversations that seek to include both environmental and industry interests. This is our ag and forestry interests. I'm a little sad that the process didn't involve cities because our cities are on the coast. So I'm a little, but they promised to work harder on that. Travel Oregon, which is very well funded at the moment, thanks to transient lodging taxes, has just ended about a 6-month program that on the North Coast has focused attention on the needs of the tourism industry. And I think one of the things, and actually I am co-chairing a group focusing on championing the tourism industry, which means we will come back to you all at some point in time to talk about how we can help our citizens understand the value of tourism and of outdoor recreation in general. Both of these programs, I think my biggest learning experience from them was to get up close and personal what's happening in some of the expanding rural places in Clatsop County. The Travel Oregon folks did a survey of stakeholders throughout Oregon, and they disaggregated the data by county. And I was struck by how our tourism providers in Clatsop County believe that tourists who come here want more than the beach and river experience. They also want to connect with closer to the eastern parts of the county. And they're very interested in hiking trails and biking trails and horse trails. They want to have some contact with the timber industry, which I thought was really interesting. You know, one comment from a hotelier was, people want to know where they can go to see an old-growth forest. People want to know where they can go to see logging happening. And both of these efforts, which have been unfortunately not connected, but they have really they have involved small ag. And the small ag issue in Clatsop County is really becoming robust. The farm to table movement, just so many of these small providers who are looking to add to their income by having some tourism activity on their properties, and be more robust with both tourists and our local residents. And it's very exciting. There's just a huge amount of energy around this, and I think it's cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I have a question. Where are we with the? Have we already completed the changing of the zoning for the rural agricultural forest lands?
The EFU.
Have we?
Has that come back before the board for?
The committee is meeting again on April 9th. They took a hiatus during harvesting season and winter. They were waiting for the Oregon Coast Visitor Association presentation at the Fort George Tap Room. What was it, 3 weeks ago?
Right, right.
Okay, so that'll be coming before us. Okay, good. Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Tom Sayre for, he has been on the Parks and Clatsop County's Recreational Lands Advisory Committee since January of 2014, and he was selected to be part of the Oregon Parks and Recreational Department, OPRD, if I've got that right, for a local government grant program advisory committee. He will be serving as the representative of people with disabilities, and they will oversee this. My understanding of this committee is that they oversee grants that are given out to different parkland in the area. And I'd like to thank Teresa here for typing up the recommendation letter that Steve Meschke and I sent on Tom Sayre's behalf. So that was successful, and I'm very happy about that. I'd also like to join again to congratulate Dr. McNichols. I know that's a long process to get a PhD, and that's good for him. So, and then I'd also like to say goodbye to Michael Summers, who has left the employee of the county. I think he contributed a lot, and he'll be missed, and wish him well on his next adventure. I attended the FTLAC meeting, and I attended the Board of Forestry meeting, and once again, we're back to the, it's just too long to get into tonight, but basically, there's a dividing line there, and so I like to have our voice heard, and that we support revenue, recreation, habitat, and I go each time and say that. And I will continue doing that. But it's good to be sitting back at the table at FTLIC, and coming up in regard to that, on March 21st, there's a public hearing on the Habitat Conservation Plan, and I will be attending that meeting also, and that's open to the public, and I think it's also on webinar. You can do that. So what's happening right now is that I wish I had had the time to write it out like Commissioner Webb did, but there's the Department of State Forestry is looking at changing the forest management plan. And at the same time, they're looking at the feasibility of a habitat conservation plan. And currently, it's progressing at the same time, which tends to be kind of confusing. But they're working on that. It's not an easy thing. And so this habitat conservation plan is part of letting people know what it means to have a habitat conservation plan. So that's, and it seems like there's something else, but, and then I wanted to ask County Manager County Manager Steele, Interim County Manager Monica Steele, if she might talk about, I know that we had a thing for the architecture and engineering.
It's in my report. I have
Okay,
information on that.
You got that covered. And then I don't think I need to keep mentioning this, but I'll bring it up since it was brought up again tonight. When I spoke at the public hearing, like I said last time, that's gone around the state, I spoke as myself as an individual. I did not speak as the board, and I want you to know that I clearly understand that. And if I am expressing my own personal point of view, I always make sure that that's clear, because that's not fair to you, and it wouldn't be fair the other way around. So, but I was in Salem at the time, and I feel strongly that something must be done. I know it's a complicated bill. We don't have to visit it at this time of night, but, you know, there are a lot of issues facing our world that we need to address. So with that, I will be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson.
Okay. Commissioner Sullivan, that was very gracious. Thank you. I went to a meeting of the Oregon Coast Trail, the North Coast Segment Tour and Meeting that was Oregon State Parks, AOC, Oregon Solutions, and ODOT down in Tillamook. Took a bus tour. A local person came and said, you know, we have to deal with the effects of overuse of the trails and human waste. So I say, wherever we're talking about tourism, could we please talk about toilets and the cost of maintaining them? Because while, see, and now it fell out of my brain. Who are the tourism people?
Travel Oregon.
Nah, there's another one.
ACWA.
Oregon Coast. ACWA. ACWA said, well, we try and educate people. I have yet to figure out how you can educate someone out of the need to use a bathroom, just saying. So if we could help human beings meet their needs as part of the cost of tourism that locals don't have to bear, I think that'd be a swell idea. Okay. It was a great experience, actually, and I've got a map if anybody wants to see it. Commissioner Aquila and I were at the Job and Career Fair, which was dandy. It was a dandy event, wildly successful. Shout out to the Daily Astorian, who provided literally hundreds of these handouts from February 27th, Wednesday edition, called Get the Job, and each one of the students could take this home. I got a couple extras if anybody wants them, but again, it was for not only high school students all over and across the bridge, all over Clatsop County and across the bridge. There were, for the afternoon, it's adult job and career seekers. So it's for everybody in the community. there was a winter choral concert featuring the Broadway Concert Choir and the Broadway sixth grade choir, which was one of just the sweetest little concerts ever. And what I was struck by was the diversity, because there were Native American songs, there were kind of pioneer songs, a Latin song, Spanish song, an Irish song. So it was wildly enthusiastic. People were standing up taking photographs and then posting them on Instagram. It was very hip. I did not do that part. We got an email. I'd like to remind folks to take a look at it about setting the stipend for the commissioners and the legal memorandum. Every county in Oregon is required by law to have a compensation board. In Clatsop County, we've apparently collapsed the compensation board into, in a 2011 action, into our
Budget committee.
thank you, God, it's after 9 o'clock, the Budget Committee. But what that has meant in the past few years is commissioners never had a chance to talk to the Budget Committee about our work and what it is and what it takes to support our work. So I really want us to consider this, take a look at this, because we're talking about some increased expenditures, which I think are completely valid. I mean, I would love to have everybody have affordable health insurance. That's going to cost more money. I need more support. I've got health insurance, but I need support in other ways. I think it's important that the county commissioners talk to some kind of compensation committee. So I think we ought to keep talking about that. I showed up to testify because I was coming through Salem on another matter, and got a really nice letter from Travis Hampton, the superintendent of the Oregon State Police, because I was the last person testifying and said, I personally supported more state troopers because we have a tourism-dependent economy. I also saw that almost every legislator sitting there was a person of color. So I talked about the superintendent. I mean, you know, if you're from Detroit, Michigan, that's just the coolest, right? So I could speak to diversity, equity, and inclusion as practiced by the superintendent and praise those actions. I could also mention that it is community volunteers on the fire departments of Seaside, Hamlet, and Elsie Vine Maple who have to clean up whatever happens in car crashes on Highway 26. So, I mean, it's really good that we're there and we're reaching out and we're making ourselves, I want to say, heard, seen, and loved, because that's the objective, right? Tomorrow is Colpack and Northwest ACT and Northwest Oregon Economic Alliance in Tillamook. Friday, we're all coming back together to meet. Monday, the Board of Property Tax Appeals. Some good fun, huh, Tom? Yeah. Councilor Brownson had one episode. He thought that was maybe enough. But again, it's the chance for citizens to participate with their county government in a way that reflects well on Department Manager Johnson. Is that the correct title? And her wonderful staff. I mean, every day we know you do good work, and now we get to test it out, right? And then I'm going to Roseburg as part of the American Leadership Forum. And the reason I'm doing the American Leadership Forum is because somebody said to me, because Teresa Durst said, Leanne, really, do you want to do that too? And the answer is yes, because what that does is give a network of contacts all over Oregon. So when we need something here in Clatsop County, when we have an issue, when we have something that we want to do, we're going to have an extended network of support all over Oregon. So that's available to us because of that. Thank you.
Commissioner Cleveland.
May I say something I forgot? It's important. I just wanted to say, when Commissioner Thompson talked about the Daily A, it reminded me, I should not have forgotten this, that when I was at the Board of Forestry, they also, once a year, they give awards out to the Operator of the Year award. They had a good press release. It was sent along to our wonderful paper here, and they wrote up a good story. I sent that back. The publicity people in the state were happy with that, and also Tom Bennett put it on our website. There's they make these videos. It was J.M. Browning. Is it? Do I have the right middle initial? It's J. Browning, but right, it's J.M. Browning. And then there was a Vim anyways, you can go on the website. I have somebody else speak for me, but there's a video and there's a press release on that, and it was the paper. So I just wanted to say congratulations to them and thank you, Daily A, for publishing that, and Tom Bennett.
Commissioner Quila.
I would just echo that. Congratulations to Browning Logging, and also your sentiments about Michael Summers. Certainly enjoyed working with him over the years. Sat in a lot of meetings around the same table with Michael over the years, and so I wish him the best in all his future endeavors. And certainly congratulations to Dr. Michael McNichol. And you mentioned the job fair. John Lewis and James Jasper out at the fairgrounds provided 140 chairs, 80 tables, and we brought those out and set them up at the county, at Clatsop Community College. 800 kids in attendance, 84 businesses, and Hampton Lumber. Jed Arnold's here from Hampton Lumber. They were one of them. Some kids take advantage of it. Some kids could care less. And they don't.
The day out of class.
It is. And so you get. So it's kind of funny to watch. What kids get dressed up and go take part of the job interviews and bring their resumes and do. And then then you see a lot of kids that just trying to find a corner to get out of everything. But it was a good event, and Kevin Leahy from Cedar and everybody at Clatsop Community College did a great job. So, and I appreciate Leanne for volunteering and being part of it.
Mock interviews, I'm telling you. Yeah. Cool. We did good. It was great fun.
Thank you. Yeah, I will miss Mr. Summers. I've really admired his work and seen some of the road work that's been done over in the East County. It was really beautiful, if you can admire road work.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you can.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Absolutely. And bridges, too.
Yes. I add also my congratulations to Mike McNichols. I attended the Human Services Advisory Council, and they gave a report on the outside agencies that they are recommending to be given grant money so that they can leverage that to increase the amounts. And we will hear from them. I also attended the Public Safety Coordinating Council meeting. Let's see. As far as the jail, March 14th is the deadline for the architect review, I believe. There will be a citizen advisory committee for the new jail. The design phase will take approximately 8 months. And August 2021 is the proposed completion. Senator Johnson is advocating with the state for monies to the county for deferred maintenance and for the equipment that the state maintenance people stripped from the OYA facility, which is pretty amazing. May 3rd, GOBE, Greater Oregon Behavioral Health, is coming for a follow-up with the sequential intercept mapping at 1 o'clock, June 4th, at the Armory or, wait a minute, no.
Greg was
I've
able
got
to
that
confirm
mixed
it
up.
here.
What?
Greg was able to reserve the Boyington.
Okay, the Boyington, okay. And I believe that's going to be more or less by invitation. That's not going to be everybody there. It's going to be a smaller group. Okay.
So does that mean us or not?
I don't know.
I would have to talk to the PSCC.
Yeah. So that now we'll have the county manager's report.
Okay, so I just wanted to kind of give an update on the jail. So the pre-proposal walkthrough for the A&E firm took place at the OIA facility on the 28th. 6 firms were contacted about the RFP walkthrough, which was mandatory, but only 1 firm attended. Proposals for this project are due by March 14th, and interviews are scheduled for March 20th. The interview committee has 4 citizen participants who were asked to participate for their experiences in law enforcement, engineering, and personal experiences of family members who are familiar with the justice and jail system. In regards to, there was a public comment earlier about alternative energy options, and that is something that is a requirement. And so we are looking into that, and David Diefenbach, our capital projects manager, spoke with me some today about his conversations that he's starting to have with Energy Trust on that as well. Currently, the RFP for the construction manager general contractor position is out. It closes April 11th. 9 firms have been contacted in regards to this RFP being open, and the mandatory walkthrough for this project is scheduled for Monday the 18th at 1 p.m. Last Friday, we had mandatory pre-proposal conferences for the 2 RFPs that are currently out in regards to the developmental disability services and the mental health and substance abuse services. And the mandatory meetings for that pre-proposal conference were at 10 a.m. for DD and 11 a.m. for the mental health, and we only had 1 entity appear on that as well. We did have an entity who contacted us by email and asked some questions, and we responded, but they did not attend the Friday meeting. The interview panel that we are working on for comprising this interview committee would consist of 2 members from the HSAC, a rep from each hospital, county employees Michael McNichol of Public Health, who currently oversees the program, and Greg Ingebretson from the Juvenile Department, who used to oversee the program, and a representative from the state, and Lieutenant Phillips, the jail commander, since they do a lot of work with the CBH and the inmates. So earlier, we also heard the public comment from Mr. Hastings, and I sent the commissioners the email with the memo from Suzanne Johnson regarding that property. And so if there is a consensus from the board, staff would remove the Maple Road parcel from the auction on March 26th to give the board more time to decide whether or not they would want to provide Mr. Hastings the opportunity to purchase the property back or sell it in auction to whoever. So if you want, I'll finish my report and then you can make a decision on that. Just a couple of, go ahead.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Are we convinced that the owner has the financial capacity?
Doesn't matter. We can't really assess that.
Of course we can. We can.
No.
Yes, I'm convinced, because he has a partner, and the partner will be loaning him the money, so they have an agreement already figured out. That's to pay off what's owing on the property, which includes property taxes, fees, I think that was in the memo. If you're asking me financial capacity to clean it up, I don't have an answer for that.
Would it be possible maybe to ask them to bond the project? They could buy a performance bond?
Yeah. I know that they have been very sincere in their efforts of developing a plan of how and when they're going to do the cleanup. And they have both signed, both him and his partner, who was here tonight too, Andrew. They both signed a right of entry agreement so that they can get on the property without trespassing at this time, because it doesn't belong to them, it belongs to us.
Right.
And they've provided an insurance binder for that. So I believe in my heart that they're very sincere. I think that this gentleman, for whatever circumstance, this just got past him. And our contact with his parents and, putting their feet to the fire about moving the cars and that sort of thing, I think somehow there was conversation. And I do believe that Sean is sincere. Whether he can pull it all together, who knows,
I have concern, thank you, Commissioner Webb, for raising it. I have concerns as well. The community's been complaining about this for at least 5 years that I know of, and that staff made these efforts and that really nothing effective happened for so long, then at the last minute to pull back. If absent some, I think a performance bond, I think some kind of, for lack of a better term, behavioral contract for compliance to clean up to the maximum extent that the law allows us to structure that, I think is essential if we're for the livability of the whole rest of that neighborhood, because the solution was, the vehicles were moved, which was wonderful, but a few blocks away. Well, no, that really isn't a solution for the livability of that neighborhood. So what I'm looking for is assurance of a real solution.
I can tell you that your agreement on the land sale auction included whoever purchased a time limit to complete the cleanup. So, we can do something like that, or we can do something with even more, teeth with Heather's direction.
I like teeth. Thank you.
Yeah, I do too. I'm really, I don't want to pass judgment on anybody, but this is now an issue that goes beyond this particular parcel of land.
And this can go back out to auction. You don't have to necessarily let him pay it, but the auction, you guys don't meet again until March 27th, and the auction is set for March 26th. So we just want a consensus that we can pull it off of the auction list.
You would get my support for that as long as there were some financial proof and some kind of a performance bond.
Well, this is just to pull it off the auction list.
We're going to bring this back. So right now, we have the authority to remove it from the auction. The ordinance allows us to do that, but we would prefer to have your consensus on that. Yeah. And then we'll come back on the 27th of March and ask you what you want to do going forward.
So would you like a motion that we can?
We just need a consensus.
No,
Just
because
consensus?
you've already delegated the decision to staff.
Right.
Staff is just asking you to consent
Okay.
to that decision.
I consent.
All right, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so just to wrap up really quick, the rest of my stuff, reminder board goals work session is scheduled for Friday from 9 to noon in the 4:30 conference room. On Tuesday, March 26th, there's a legislative call with Representative Mitchell. And then I sent out an email last week, I believe, and so if commissioners have their reports typed up or any other type of information that they would like to submit to Tom,
I always want to.
Yeah, but you can just do a quick little email and Tom will make it look pretty, and provide a commissioner report. Kind of like the county manager's bulletin that goes out to you. This would be something that would get posted online. It would be posted on our Facebook page, and then it would go to the Daily Astorian and KMUN as well. And then last, I just want to remind everybody to be conscious of the flu epidemic that's going around, because it was very unfortunate that a Warrenton teenager passed away from pneumonia associated with influenza. So that is all that I have. Oh, and just one other thing, the interesting fact about where Michael Summers moved to, the company that he is now working for, another former employer, Bart Catching, also moved to Vancouver, and they are now working for the same firm, which has 250 people, so they probably aren't working together, but, so, anyways.
Seems
And
like
may I
everyone
say
is.
just one more thing? Because looking across the room here, and I see Jed Arnold of Hampton, and I know you were working on a pollinator project, and hopefully maybe we can get a report sometime this year about how that's going, since we talked about pollinators. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. I just wanted, you mentioned a March 26th date. What's happening on March 26th?
The legislative phone call with Representative Mitchell at 7 a.m.
Oh.
Yeah.
We'll get an email
Yes,
about that.
Yeah, I'll email that out. And I apologize for the
haven't adjourned the meeting yet.
confusion last time.
It was a stretch for
Yeah.
Grandma, okay?
Yeah, I agree with the county manager. Let's please have our reports more concise. And I think writing them is a good idea because
agree.
then
I couldn't agree
because
more.
then we don't have to. Yeah, it's
A fine time to do it.
I had one more thing, in case anybody is interested. For Senate Bill 608 that passed for the statewide rent control, there's going to be, let's see, Ben Lawrence of Lawrence and Lawrence, and a accountant is going to be, if anybody is a landlord, is going to be, or a renter, they're going to be giving, March 21st, they're going to be telling people exactly what to expect with this. There are some problems.
It's a terrible bill.
Where's it at?
Oh, sorry, it's at the Holiday Inn.
Did it already
in
pass?
Seaside?
It already-
Yes,
Yeah,
it did,
it
it passed. So if anybody has
hoping.
another question about when this is, I'll keep this. Okay, thank you. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.